Okay, let's start that over. Hi, welcome to Wine Wednesday with the Whisperer. Since no one's here yet, I'm just going to kind of chit chat with myself, basically. But I did put a link out there. Feel free to join. Have a couple of things that I do want to mention tonight. So hopefully some folks. Yeah, now we're working. Now we're working. Um, Hopefully some folks will join in. Hi to anybody joining. And I do see a few of you. I'm trying to juggle here. Hopefully Lucy will show up. And then I won't have to juggle as much. But first off, let's see, what should we do first? Okay, first off, I have always wanted to do more like chit-chatting about the wine aspect of this because my original intention, of course, was for us all to come together and, chill out, grab a glass of wine, chat about the week. Hey, Carlos, maybe talk about, whatever's going on with our seahorse tanks, our reef tanks, sometimes open chat, sometimes interview, but I always wanted to include the wine part originally because I wanted to learn about it, and now just because I absolutely love it, not too much, but I just love it. Anyhow, I've been learning some new stuff, and so what I did is before I started tonight, I went out and I got 2 brands of Pinot Noir, right? One is Sea Glass Pinot Noir, and the other is Decoy. Now, the last time I talked about wine on this channel, someone was telling me about Sonoma Sonoma County, and how the Pinot Noir there was better. Hey, Salty Reef, what's up? And so throughout these streams, this isn't going to be the main focus, but once I get these babies opened, one already is, but once I get these babies opened, I'm going to kind of give you my personal review. I have my wine for dummies here handy, so I'll be letting you know because I've always, oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot to make the point. This is like 15 bucks and this is like 30 some. So we're still not in the upper, classier wines, but I just wanted to see how much of a difference and what the differences was. So we'll do that at some point. But hey, Lisa, hey everybody, Lisa, I need to talk to you on the side anyways. But anyhow, I did put the link in, you guys. I would love for somebody to join so we can. Hey, I'm a natural blue. Hi everybody. I think I put the link already in there. Please let me know, guys, right away if it's not working. So that we can try to figure something else out. I did put out in the article, I did put out a link that you guys can actually sign up to get an emailed link each week. When you do that, you don't necessarily have to join. It's still up to you. But then if you can't get in via the link in the comments, you will be able to get in through the link in your email much more easily. So if you ever have trouble getting in, that might be the way to go. But anyhow, all right, I'm kind of looking at who's here. Hi to everybody. And let's see, Facebook, if we got anybody going on here. I also actually spoke with the people about the masks and trying to figure out why when I'm live, as you can see, it doesn't seem to work as well. And the mask does not come on. And they gave me some suggestions, and I'm working with it. And it might just be because I'm using the test button instead of actually using the feature. But I'm working on it, guys. I will get it to work. I will. It just sometimes takes me a minute. I see somebody who said they got a new tank. Salty Reef got a new tank today. Nice. What kind? Hey, Dave's Nano Tanks. Thank you so much for the, is Super Chat? Thank you so much. Look at that big notification. See, I think it's just a little delayed, but it works. Mwah. Thank you, Dave. And if anybody wants to join in, there's that link right there. We're just doing open chat, so I'm just chatting away. I just keep putting it in there till somebody comes. But anyways, oh, what the heck was I saying? I can't even remember now. See, Dave always throws me off. I always get off base once Dave says something. Oh, Salty Reef got a 75 for the seahorses instead of the 29. Couldn't I have to tell you, I think that's a very, very, very good idea. Um, every single seahorse tank that I've done, when I use smaller tanks, I just tend to have more problems. That whole organic thing, um, it just builds up a lot more quickly when you've got a smaller tank. Even when you have the best of equipment, it still just seems to build up quickly. Hey, Chimp, the Reefer, what's up? Hey, Joseph, I don't want to mispronounce. Beard Eye, maybe? And yes, Carlos said congratulations on the new tank. I can't wait to see it, Salty. If you have shown it on the video already, I apologize. I haven't been online. Actually, I'll tell you why I haven't been online. Is I have been working on some things, and I know I always say that, and then it takes me forever to get them done. But it's because I really, really care, and I really want things to be done well, and so I take longer than I should to get videos and articles and stuff done. But I got in the mail. I'm so excited. My book. I don't know if y'all can see that. Can you guys see that? I don't know. Can we see it? Bula Buddies, right? And it's a kid's book. Yes, it is. But Walt Smith had this terrific plan and idea. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Walt Smith, and he actually is with the, I think you call it ADE project, Walt Smith International, all of those kinds. He's been in the industry forever, and he went from, a source to, somebody who was actually helping different places implement more sustainable fisheries and stuff, more methods and better husbandry and things like that. And anyhow, so there's a really cool story that I will link in the description when I'm done. But there's a really cool story about how he's always wanted to write these books, and because he thought that if he could put the characters under the sea into a form that anybody could understand, then maybe more people would pay attention to what's going on in the ocean. And I'm not going to give away what's inside the book. You got to buy it. I'll put a link to that too. But it's very cool. I had my daughters. I mean, I literally enjoyed it myself. I thought it was really cute. And then my daughters just loved it. And the end is a cliffhanger. Very cool, Walt. Very cool. And they're like, we got to get the next book, Mom. And I'm like, Walt, come on. They want the next book. Let's go. But, all right. Anyhow, I just wanted to give that shout out because I've been waiting on the book. Not waiting on the book to come, but waiting on my opportunity to order the book, the finances stuff. But I finally ordered it. It came to me right away. It's actually signed by Walt. It's very, very cool. And so you'll be hearing more about this in articles and stuff, not just about Bula Buddies, but I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Bula, I think. But you won't be hearing about it just this book, but everything that they're doing is really, really cool. I don't know if you guys get into that, but I certainly do. And I think that appealing to people through this method is such a cool way to do it. I'm seriously sitting here thinking, I need to write kids' seahorse books. I know someone else is doing it, so I don't want to copy the idea, but can you imagine how many people would really understand more about seahorses, their care, why we shouldn't take them from the ocean, that kind of thing, if there were these books with little seahorse characters? I don't know. If somebody else doesn't do it, I'm going to. All right, anyways, let's see. I'm trying to follow these comments. Sorry, I was rambling, guys. We've got, let's see. Again, thank you again, Dave's Nano Tank, for the super chat. Trying to make the other features work, guys, but feel free to try. And maybe they'll work if they are done correctly. I'm going to keep trying throughout this stream just to see. But has anybody tried the link, by the way? I need to know. I'm gonna read the comments in a minute. But I just need to know if anybody has tried the link and not been able to get in, or if y'all's just busy. I know Lisa needs a wench. Can I do that right now? If you tell me how, I actually would prefer. I didn't realize. Yeah. I need Lisa to have a wench. A wrench. Why do I say wench? You're not a wench, Lisa. You're not a wench. You're a wrench. But anyways, um, yeah. So I just need to know if the link works, or if you guys are not able to get in or what. But anyways, I'm gonna go through the comments, and you can come in if you want. So let's see. The solution to pollution is dilution. Absolutely. Again, congrats, Salty Reef, on that bigger tank. I think it's going to be a great idea for you. DM's Reef got an eShops 10-gallon ATO today. And tell us more about it, DM, unless you already have and I haven't gotten to the comments. The Salty Reef, no, last night you missed me. So, Salty Reef, did you change your name? I need to know these things. Come on, tell me. And link never works for you. And of course, Lucy's not here. Salty, if you message me with your email, you never gave it to me, or you flashed it and then I didn't catch it in time, and then Lucy got you in, but I don't have it, and you didn't sign up for the emailed link. So you know you could have just signed up. But anyways, Joseph, I did see. These comments are making me nuts. Joseph, you gotta earn the wrench, okay? Gotta earn the wrench. But I did see you say something about your seahorse needs a buddy. You have one seahorse? Only one? I think we've talked on Facebook. Let me know if I'm correct. You know. Somebody try the dang link, just so I can know. You recently did a care video on ghost pipefish. Okay, I'm really gonna have to go look at that, Joseph, because I'm sure it's a terrific video, but ghost pipefish are one of those things that I personally think the hobby might not be ready for, if that makes sense. So I'll definitely
Hello.
check. Hey, Dave, is that Dave?
It is.
Hi, Dave. Good. You can help me make Lisa a wrench. But actually, I have a question real quick. What do you think about ghost pipefish in the hobby? Any thoughts?
Ghost pipefish?
Yeah.
I don't know what they are.
Oh.
I really only have the one dragon face, and I haven't put a lot of research into him. He's a good citizen. That's he eats all my pods. He's a happy guy.
Well, I can't wait to check out Joseph's
But
video. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh no,
Okay.
I was good.
Okay, I was just gonna say that ghost pipefish, I know quite a few people that are extremely experienced that have done well with them, um, and people who are trying to breed them in the hobby, just like sea dragons, which are much bigger and a different story. But bottom line is, the collection of the ghost pipes is very. It has to be done properly. If they have air at a certain time, or if they, there's just all these things that have to be done, perfectly for them to even make it to somebody in any kind of condition where they could do well. And then you have to make sure they're fed and eating, and it's just with the smaller cygnathids with those little mouths. Yes, they do have hinged jaws that can open up and grab stuff. But when the smaller ones with those tiny mouths, when I had Matt on the channel a few weeks ago, he talked about his butterfly fish. I think it was, yeah, his butterfly fish, and that the reason he felt that most people were not very successful with them is because they didn't feed them properly, because they need the food in tiny bits, you know what I mean? Because their mouths are so small. So I'll definitely check out the video. And you put 3 months of research into it. Well, now I'm really excited to see it, Joseph. And it's not that I doubt you. I just, if it suggests that they're okay for hobbyists, I don't know how I'll feel, but I can't wait to see it. And who else? Somebody else came in, didn't they?
I think Salty did.
Oh, hey, Salty, did you get in? Trying to navigate here. Oh, he left again. All right, well, all right.
He said the link worked.
Oh, okay.
Let's get Lisa wrenched up.
All right, how do I wrench her?
Go onto YouTube, on your YouTube page where it's playing. You're on a laptop, right?
Uh-huh.
Find her in the chat, and
Yep.
there should be 3 dots after her name, after any one of her comments.
Yep.
And there's a menu there. If you click those 3 dots, and one of them is Add Moderator.
Okay.
And that's it.
Trying here. Maybe.
If you just go to the end of her comment,
No, my computer
3
is just
dots
really.
should appear.
My computer's really slow right now. I don't know what's going on. Am I freezing also, guys? Or, anyways, Lisa, you should have a wrench. I always want to say wench. You should have a wrench. Now, let me
It's
know.
not a wench.
Hey, Dave.
Let's go UK and just say spanner.
There you go. There you go. How have you been this week? How you doing? Dave?
I'm doing okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Are people saying they can't hear you?
Oh, okay. No,
Okay.
no, I'm doing all right.
Okay. Anything new
Is
going on?
because when you're keeping Acropora coral, there are Acropora eating red bugs, and that's one of the pests we endure, and the pipefish eat them. So
And did you have
it's just
them?
a preventative fish.
Sorry.
No, I haven't had them, but he's happy eating pods and stuff in there. But if I ever get him, maybe he'll help out. And he's a really cool fish, so why not?
Oh yes, I know on your stream someone had mentioned their wrasses and how they had the flatworms in the sump, yet never in the display. Not the flatworms that weren't parasitical or what, they weren't the bad ones. They were just the planaria type whatever. Right. And because of his wrasses, he never saw them in the display. I had the same thing happen in my reef, and those wrasses are nice to have. So definitely, I didn't realize that the dragonface ate the red bugs. That's interesting. I never knew that. Is that what you said? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I'm sorry.
No, it sounds like you're having trouble hearing me. Is that it or no?
No, it's that I keep thinking that you're trying to talk, and I think that I'm interrupting you. Sorry. I'll quit.
Oh, no, you're fine.
All right.
You're fine. It's your show.
Right? Duh. Anyhow, any clues? Do you have any thoughts? I actually messaged the folks at Streamlabs and everything, trying to figure out why some of the things that I talked about in that article and video, the masks and stuff, why they wouldn't work. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because the super chats work.
No.
No. Ooh.
It maybe has something to do with the way your live stream presents and your pic very small amongst the screen. It might have something to do with that.
Yeah. Well, I actually asked them to kind of watch this tonight, so hopefully they'll be able to tell me, because when I made the video, I used this exact screen and it worked just fine. So I don't know. Anyways, just curious, but thank you so much for helping me out. And Lisa, now we got the wrench going on for you. Salty, feel free to come in if you like. Really, it's, again, just open chat. So just seeing what you guys are up to. And I've done my spiel about had you heard about this book, Dave? The Bula Buddy book. Had you heard of it?
No.
Oh.
No, I was coming into the live stream when you were presenting it, so I kind of missed that.
I gotcha.
I was plugging in my microphone and, trying to get over to Hangouts, and so I kind of missed it. I saw that you presented something, but I didn't hear what it was about.
Gotcha. Well, it's Walt Smith. He has been meaning to write these books for a long time, finally did. Every time somebody buys one of these books, it goes to the Aid Project, which is a very good not-for-profit, run by Walt, of course. And I was just saying that the book's really cool. I'll write some more about it. Walt won't close, Lisa. Trying to read the comments too here. Okay, well they'll figure it out. She's handling it. So, anything new and exciting that you've seen others going on in, the reef world, Dave, this week? Anything new?
No, not really. I've been so busy this week that I really haven't watched a lot of video and seen
Mm,
what's going on.
yeah.
Um, so
What's kept you
it's just
busy?
been a busy week for me. Work, like real job
Re-
work.
yeah, that's always fun. I know how that is. Oh man, I know the same with me. I didn't even really have time to, you know, get anything together for tonight, so I'm kind of hanging, hanging out there, just saying, "What's up, guys?" Because I've been kind of crazy with work and research and stuff. I'm actually, the more I think about it, I'm really excited to go and see Joseph's video. Um, because that really interests me. We were talking earlier. I do on Facebook. I do a which would you choose poll, and it's typically something um, that makes you think. Like, for instance, you would probably say both answers. I think the one that I had yesterday was, do you if you were just starting an aquarium or if you're keeping aquariums, if you had to choose, would you choose a completely natural setup that relied on, algae type system, recirculating, self sustaining, miracle mud? Would you prefer that kind of system, or would you prefer something with all the bells and whistles? And we were just talking about how much things have changed over the past 10 years, and how even the experts changed their minds on how to do things. So if you had to answer that, which one would you choose?
I've always gone more a natural route. And when you're setting up your tank, you're getting advice from someone is already in the hobby and you're kind of following them, or your LFS is going to kind of guide you. So it really depends who that person is, I think,
Hmm.
because some LFSs will want to sell you the GF and all of these chemicals and right off the bat, and you don't even have phosphates yet. Why are you running GFO? Things like that. And I've always relied on macroalgae. Even when I had a Fowler tank years ago, I always had a refugium with macroalgae in it to help process as much of it naturally as I could.
I love it. That's actually the reason. What the? I'm sorry. Go ahead. See, that's I
I
keep
didn't say a word.
see I keep hearing something. I think somebody says something. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna quit apologizing to you. What I was trying to say is I actually had been watching a debate between Julian Sprung and, oh, I'm gonna forget the other guy's name, Josh something, and they were discussing whether or not refugiums were good. And this was 2014, okay? And so it was just really interesting to see how their answers were then as to now. But some of the things that like refugiums have remained in focus the whole time. So there's got to be something to it, and I would have to agree. I like using refugium. Hey, it worked finally. Do you guys see that? And I don't know.
I'm getting you. You're coming in. I don't know if it's my connection or your connection. I guess somebody in chat could say whether it's you, me, or everything. Or
Is it breaking up? Is that what happened?
sometimes when you speak, hey, I see the reindeer antlers. That worked.
Yeah, that's why I wonder if that's not what broke it up. But I noticed that, Dave, when you were talking, I missed a word or two. Uh, I might have to play with the old settings again as the stream gets more popular. Maybe it's just it needs more power or something. I'm not sure. I don't
Yeah,
know.
your computer could be trying to do something right now besides all of the streaming that you're doing, and you never know.
Yeah.
Lisa said it's clear, so maybe it's just within Hangouts where it's chopping up a little bit.
And for a long time, I really did blame Hangouts and was looking at other options. I looked at Discord. I looked at, and Hangouts just it kind of is the easiest and it's what everybody uses. But I've also noticed, I don't know, have you ever noticed that like after half an hour with Hangouts, it'll all of a sudden get more choppy? Or is that just me?
It depends on so many things.
Yeah.
I notice when you have a full Hangouts, 10 people, and they're all talking and all the cameras are on, it gets very choppy. So when it starts to do that, I start to ask people, hey, if you're not displaying something, just turn your camera off. We can still hear you. Or if there's a lot of background noise seems to cut into what people are saying sometimes because it tries to equalize the audio to make it smooth, but it doesn't know that it's a dog barking or somebody talking. So,
You know what?
but
First of all, John,
what?
I'm sorry. I said, you know what? I forgot to turn the tank off. 10 seconds. I bet I can fix it. I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second. Literally, it's right here. If I turn it off, I bet this will go away. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
Oh. If I could get out. Maybe.
So how's everybody doing tonight? Does anybody have any seahorse questions? Okay. I'd be glad to ask Kelly them for you.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, I'm just trying to talk to everybody while you were gone.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for manning the stream. Let me know if this sounds a little better. I did invest in a microphone. It's just not here yet. So that could be it too, that I'm using the webcam microphone. But John Monroe from Facebook said the refugium debate with Julian Sprung and Jake Adams. That's who it was. Not Josh, sorry. Jake Adams was very interesting. It is on YouTube. I'll put a link. But yeah, that's what my which would you choose about. And I'm kind of looking at the comments too. Joseph is old school. Didn't you, somebody said they liked just plants. And I will say, you know, that of course, oh, my foot stuck, sorry. Lordy me. Okay, sorry. I will say that, you know, when you're talking about seahorses, it's a different situation, you know. I've got seahorse tanks that have completely fake in the display, but I still do use sumps with something in it. Sometimes it's, you know, K1 and no algae, but I do use algae scrubbers and refugiums on seahorse tanks too. But I don't know. I think the ending was that it's just really depends on your goals and what you're trying to do. Because Dave, have you, and I see Salty, did you get back in?
Yeah.
Cool. Salty, which one do you prefer? Natural or, you know, the Apex rigged, everything's on a timer, everything is running on, you know, equipment that's sterilizing and then repopulating and blah, 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 blah. Which one do you prefer?
I like as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Just
now,
simple.
I'm curious if we went to look at how, you know, the people, I always, when I have these kind of questions, I look for the people that have had tanks going for a really long time and see what they do. And so I just, if anybody in the audience wants to pipe up and say what your method is and, you know, how long it's worked and things like that, I'd love to hear because that kind of stuff really interests me. But anyhow, so what's up with you, Salty? What's going on?
Just busy. Work, kids.
Sure. What made you decide to go up to 75?
It was a good deal, and I like I said when I was live streaming the setup of the 29, I prefer a sump. I don't like to hang on back stuff.
Gotcha.
And the 75's drilled, so.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad because I agreed with Dave's comment. The solution to pollution is dilution. Love it. So.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Sherry's
Oh,
Reef.
yeah, the more water you have, the better.
How big is your system again,
Hello,
Dave?
Sherry.
How big is your system?
It's a 55-gallon tank. It's a 55-gallon tank, a 100-gallon tank into a 40 breeder,
That's
with
right.
a 30-gallon tank, so it's all plumbed together.
Wow, that's what I'm talking about. And
Hmm.
but you is it
Oh,
considering
there's also a 20.
you go?
There's also a 29-gallon tank in there too, just for more water volume. It actually has nothing in it but sand.
Nothing in
So,
it but sand. So it's just used for.
yeah, it's
Go ahead.
added water volume. As the water drains out of my frag tank, it goes through that tank before it hits the refugium. So I was thinking of doing a deep sand bed in there, just because it won't be disturbed by anything. Because I've always experimented with deep sand bed. I ran my 120 Fowler tank on strictly deep sand bed at one point,
Mm.
and it works. It works well if set up properly.
Why did you stop doing it? I mean, why did you change that?
Now, I didn't want it in the reef tank because certain animals burrowing into it, and then you also you're restricted by flow. You can't really have an SPS reef tank with a lot of flow and a deep sand bed because you want the water to process slowly over the sand bed. So a remote deep sand bed is actually very, very good place to put it into play, but I think that'll be the place
Gotcha.
because it can also really buffer your system too. It'll work like not as efficient as a calcium reactor, but it will dissolve itself and add elements back into the system.
And I
Now,
have no.
Dave,
Go ahead.
now if you're not running Miracle Mud in your refugium, would you recommend a deep sand bed in the refugium?
It's tricky with deep sand bed because it's two different things. It's really apples and oranges. They both work on them, but you don't need Miracle Mud or a deep sand bed in a refugium. Refugium is really just a refuge for your microfauna. It's a place where your rats won't eat it, like she was talking about the flatworms earlier. Aren't the only thing. Anything that there's no predators down there is the idea. And you let these things multiply, and they actually become your filtration and a food source. So as they get back up into the display.
And on the deep sand bed, how long do you think that it takes to actually? I don't know how to say it properly. Like work. Doesn't it have to be really established before it works?
Yeah, yeah. It needs to build up its different levels of oxygen and oxygen deprived areas where different bacteria can grow. And you don't want, it's not like you're actually constantly exchanging water from the top to the bottom. This has just got a dead area underneath that's oxygen depleted, and a certain type of bacteria grows down there. And the microfauna within the sand bed bring that down in the different levels. It's like a food chain in the sand bed. By the time it gets to the bottom, it's completely processed. That's what you want it to do, but because people have to have too much the rocks, too many rocks covering the sand surface, too much animals that like to burrow into it, and then they can release pockets of nitrogen up into the tank.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons to just put it in a fish tank and do a deep sand bed.
Okay, now wait. You were breaking up a little bit, and I'm guessing it is the Hangouts. I apologize, folks. But I was just going to ask you what you were talking about. I was going to say, isn't there a huge danger that the deep sand bed will be disturbed and release those gases? And you said that it would be better to put it in the display. Is that what you said?
Better to have it in a remote area, not a display area.
Okay. Gotcha. That makes more sense. Okay. Perfect. And hello to Chris.
And it would work.
Go ahead.
And as Lisa said, it would work well in a refugium because, if it's just a gas pocket that goes from the bottom, it bubbles up out of the sand bed and goes to the top and bursts. So in a refugium, it's not going to bother anything. But if that were to burst or get caught, say, under a Montipora or something like that, then it just sit in the tank. It's not a good thing.
Yeah. Hmm. Do you focus mainly on you're specifically SPS now, correct, Dave? Huh?
I didn't get any of that. I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry. Not sure what's going on, guys, but you're specifically SPS now, correct? Like
No, in one of the tanks, it's SPS dominant in my main display, and then my 55 gallon is everything else. So I've got macro, softies, and LPS in there.
And how do you, because one of the reasons, I do see your question, Joseph. I'm going to talk about live seagrass in just a second. But Dave, one of the reasons that as I rebuild my reef, because whether or not the Vibrant works, whether I have to redo the whole thing or not, of course I will rebuild. And when I do, I'm trying to determine which way I want to go, because while my mixed reef did work for a very long time, I just have realized and read so much recently about how the different coral need different things that, like, oh, well, I hate to keep bringing up Matt, the guest I had on a few weeks ago, but he made some great points about his SPS dominated tank. He kept the temperature different than what most people do. He kept this and that, like, for instance, you can't have a bunch of phosphate and nitrate. You need some, but not a bunch for SPS. Whereas with mushrooms and softies, they love the dirty. And so I'm thinking that when I rebuild mine, I'm going to focus on one type of coral. So I was just wondering if you have any trouble with that, or if you have something in between the tanks that makes it work, or if you just don't have trouble.
Is any type of coral, you can give it that perfect environment and it will do well. But if you can find a balance between your dirtier tank for your softies and your cleaner tank for your SPS, if you can find a balance, they will all do well. Maybe they would do better if you had a separate tank for each of them. But because they're in two separate tanks, so I've got that whole stinging warfare separated. Mm-hmm. And I feel that the chemical warfare that the softies put out can be processed somewhat through the sump before it goes into the SPS tank, that I'm having more success than having them all in the same tank. Even though the tanks are connected, at least all the water is being filtered before it commingles in the tanks.
Makes sense. I get it.
If that makes, yep.
Yeah, it does. Okay. Well, I've always feared a deep sand bed, so your answers did make me feel better. Thank you. And anybody else tried oh, actually, I'm sorry. I need to get to Joseph's question. I apologize. He asked about seagrasses and whether or not anybody had used live seagrasses. I personally have not used live seagrasses, and the reason was, actually, it fits perfectly with this conversation, because I was focusing on seahorses, and I personally just have kind of stayed away from sand. It's every single tank that I put sand in, I had troubles. Whereas in a reef tank, sand is a good thing because it harbors all these things that help everything. In a seahorse tank, they're just so, oh man, just they're not difficult, but I don't know. I'm not going to go further. I'm just going to say that I don't particularly like sand in a seahorse tank, and even in the refugium, I just didn't want anything growing in there that could possibly cause trouble. So I didn't ever try seagrass because of the fact that I didn't want. Seagrass needs that sand bed, correct? Am I correct with that? Do you know, Dave?
I would think so. Yeah.
Have you used seagrass?
I know one guy who did it. We have a guy, Asa, who comes in and does a lot of experiments. He likes to DIY a lot of things, and he did try a refugium with seagrass, where it was, partly in the water, partly out of the water, and a deep sand bed as well. And he actually made special fertilizers for it as well too. Something crashed and burned with it, and I don't think it had anything to do with the seagrass. And I'm also not sure on the getting your seagrass from a good source where it is tropical seagrass. You don't want to get anything from northern waters that's used to a colder temperature and then try and put it in a tropical environment. But I don't know enough about it to speak educated on it.
Sure. I understand. And Joseph, have you tried it? Is that why you're asking? 8-inch sand bed. You know what? Joseph, get in here and talk. It's too hard reading your comments. No, I'm just kidding. But feel free to join if you want. But because I'd love to hear more about the seagrasses. Cruz has always wanted me to do seagrasses with the seahorses. And I just, that deep sand bed has always made me fearful. So I just never did. And what did you say the guy's name is, Dave, that does the DIY experimenting and did this?
Asa Herring. He comes into Rico's live streams. He has sometimes he's on a lot and sometimes he's not. Like anyone else, life gets in the way and things happen.
Sure.
But I wonder how well mangroves would do with seahorses, because of that root structure would give a lot of hitching opportunities.
I'm not sure, speaking about the actual hitching opportunities, but I know Julian Sprung is Mr. Mangrove. So, and I'm pretty darn sure that he, you know what, now I'm going to look it up because I don't want to speak incorrectly. This is the problem with the live stream, sometimes I might know something, but I don't want to say it wrong. Go ahead.
Julian loves his mangroves.
And he
as far as for exporting.
I'm listening. I shut up so you could talk. Go ahead.
As far as for exporting nutrients, you need a lot of them. It's not like Chaeto. It's not going to pull a lot of. They don't filter a lot of water for their size, but there is a place for them, and they are a beautiful plant once they grow too. So.
Right. And what I was looking up, actually, is because Julian did a lot of things with... thank you, Lisa, for Ace's channel. I will go check it out when we're done here. And anyways, Julian did a lot with seahorses, too. So I was actually trying to see if he had already done this, what we're talking about. I'm not seeing it right off the bat, but I swear he might have. We'll have to see. We'll have to maybe get him in here sometime and ask him. But, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely all about using macros. I tend to stick with macros that don't need the sand or just need a little bit of sand. Like, I have had a display tank where I kept, like, I hate the pronunciations, Helmedia or something like that. The green calcified macro. Anyhow, I've played with all these different macros. I just kind of steered clear from the ones that needed that sand bed, that could pull, the kinds that can pull from the water column instead of needing the non-rooted. That's what I'm looking for, the non-rooted types.
Right.
And look up Sarah something or other on seagrasses. Okay. All right. Gotcha. What were you going to say, Dave? Nothing?
I don't know.
Okay. I'm sorry this Hangouts is going so crappy. My other thought is that maybe if I turn off at least a few of the places this is being restreamed, I bet it might work a little better. It's going too many places, I think, but go on with what you were going to say. I apologize.
Eating a cookie now.
What?
I said now I'm eating a cookie.
Oh, cookie. Call you out right in the middle of the cookie. Nice. All right. And Lisa has an inch of sand and doesn't have any issues. She did when she was cycling, but it was her own fault in your own demise. I'm gonna have to watch your videos too, Miss Lisa, because I've been a slacker and been not on YouTube enough at all. And Joseph, I do see your comment. I will look up Sarah on the seagrasses. As for sand, Lisa, you know, it's pretty common knowledge now that if you just let it go through that cycling process, most of those problems kind of take care of themselves. But I feel you when it's looking all crazy and ugly, and it seems like the sand's the problem. I'm just too impatient. That's why I usually go without it. Now I did have sand in my reef, but when you talk about this deep sand bed, there's just so many ways to do things. I know Lorenzo, a very good friend of mine. He's featured in different forums and magazines and stuff all the time because he has this reef tank and his sand is always perfect and white and down to the bottom perfect. And he actually stirs it, and he has a method, and I'll try to find a link and put it up because I don't want to tell his secrets, but that works for him. If a deep sand bed works for some people, cool. And I'm a natural blue, said I added sand 10.5 months in. You're nuts. Oh my gosh. How did you do that? And how did that work out? I'm dying to know now. Dave, have you ever had an experience where you added sand afterwards?
That's easier than removing it. It's easier to add it afterwards than remove it afterwards.
I have seen a lot of people talking about that and trying to remove sand from their tanks afterwards. Typically, it's seahorse tanks, but I've seen it in reef forums too. Why are people doing that now? Why are people getting rid of the sand a lot?
I think the nutrients get away from them, and the first thing they point at is the sand bed. And whether it's true or not, I mean, that it really isn't the case. When you're doing a water change, if you're vacuuming your sand bed, then you shouldn't have a problem. But if you're not vacuuming your sand bed, you have some other detritus build up somewhere. So the people attack the sand first. This is my opinion, of course. And then they run into more trouble because they disturb part of their filtration by removing the sand, and removing it either too rapidly or from the top down to the bottom instead of just taking sections out. And you release a lot of crap into your water if you don't do it with a siphon and just throw all the water out. I've seen people try and siphon it through a filter sock. Well, guess what? All of that horrible stuff that's in your sand bed is going to go right through the filter sock, chemical, or that water back in, and they run into new problems because they've got all of this oxygen depleted water and things that shouldn't be in your reef tank that were perfectly safe below the sand bed, but now that they're in the water column, you've got trouble.
You broke up a little bit, and I have a quick question. I'm sorry if I interrupted, but you broke up at the key moment. You said that they stir it up. This stuff, if you don't have something pulling it right then and there, then it will go down, and you said it will go through even a filter sock. And then what did you say? I'm sorry.
What I was trying to say is that if you're removing sand, do it as part of a water change and discard all the water and sand that you get out at the same time. Don't try to recycle the water that you use to suck the sand out with.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. That does make sense.
Yeah. And do a section of the tank. Do like a third or a quarter of the sand bed, and then do another quarter the next time, and top to bottom a quarter. You're also removing a lot of your bacteria that lives in your sand and on your sand. And it's hard enough to establish good bacteria. And bacteria and algae all want the same things, and algae's a lot better at it. Once algae gets a foothold, it's a lot better at taking up nutrients than any amount of bacteria. Oh, phone call.
Oh, And I was going to say, I know a lot of people who would disagree with that, but I'm not sure I'm one of them. I don't, I have thoughts both ways, but go on with what you were saying. Or did you get the phone call? Do you need a minute? Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think he took the phone call.
He took the phone call. All right. Well, I'm curious what everybody in the audience thinks. Do you think algae or bacteria are better? I'm curious. And I did see that, oh, I didn't realize that's you, Lisa. Hi. And you said that you did a major water change, basically, right? You removed the seahorses, added the sand, ran it until clear, added them back 24 hours later, used Clarity to help. My question now is, you said 10.5 months in, how's it gone since? And how long has it been? Because, and why did you add sand? All these questions. You should really just come in and talk to me, see? But it's okay. Answer in the comments if you want. It's fine.
Yeah.
Salty, go ahead.
I had a question on that, too. Wouldn't that cause like a mini cycle? Adding sand, wouldn't that cause a mini cycle? Unless it's live sand.
Or unless it's really, Lisa, I will let you field that question. Hi. If you want, did it cause any kind of mini cycle? And I'm going to guess that she did not have a mini cycle. And one of the things, she said diatom nightmare, of course. And one of the things that I think that we don't do a good job of as people that talk about seahorses a lot is we don't do a very good job of explaining to people that yes, we might have these tanks with plastic chains and not much rock, and you don't see much actual, no sand, no rock, just chains. What in the heck is running the tank? And someone asked to actually see Cheryl Taylor's sump. And so I'm hopefully going to drag her back in here sometime to show her sumps because, or maybe I could get off my tush and show mine, but they're not as good as Cheryl's. And the bottom line is you have to compensate. If you have not much in the display, you better have it somewhere else or you're going to have problems. So until Lisa gives us more information, I'm just going to say that I personally bet that she has so much filtration going on in the sump that the sand didn't cause a mini cycle. Or, like if you rinsed it so clear that it would like be adding an ornament or anything else. Wouldn't it? Am I wrong? I think Dave's back. What do you think? Or who opened the pop? I missed it. All right, well, question to
Sorry, that was me.
Oh, that's okay. Question to anyone in the audience. What do you guys think? As someone who doesn't use sand often, I can't really give any expertise on that. How do you come in without a camera? Okay, Lisa, can you field that one? I'll explain really quickly, but basically when you come in, when you join the Hangout, it's going to say, do you understand that you're going into a live Hangout? And before you hit that yes, click the camera that will be at the top of the screen and it'll shut your camera off. If that makes any sense, let me know. Hi, Billy. We're talking sand right now. If you want to come in and chit chat, please feel free. I don't do sand very much, so I can't really help on these things. But, we're just chit chatting. And
I think didn't Billy just change out his sand a while ago?
Oh, did you,
Billy?
Billy?
Sure he did a video.
I'm not sure. Billy, come on in if you feel like it. I'd love to hear what's going on with that. But either way, anyways, yeah, anybody who has any comments or thoughts, please give them because I don't have an answer to that. I don't know why adding sand would not cause a mini cycle other than if you had so much filtration an established, system below. We were talking earlier, Salty, you can pipe in and interrupt me if you want to talk about anything. Please feel free. This is open chat. But with what I was talking about earlier, we were talking in that which would you choose about just how many different ways there are to do things, and how you can get around things by doing certain things a different way. So I'm very curious to hear what worked for Lisa, but I don't know until she tells us. And I have never personally taken out or added sand after a tank was started. I really wish I would have removed the sand from one of my seahorse tanks, because I knew, and I might have been jumping to conclusions, as Dave pointed out earlier. I might have been jumping to conclusions and suspecting the sand was the problem, and maybe it really wasn't. But I to this day, I think that it was, because I literally had so many problems with those seahorses. Moved those seahorses out of that tank, they did better. They were fine. And then when I tried, like, I let it sit there forever, thinking maybe, fallow, that kind of thing. And when I tried to put seahorses in there again, I even used hydrogen peroxide and probiotics and everything. And when I tried to put seahorses in there again, I had trouble again. So, and
those seahorses moved.
Miss Lisa, is that you?
Better. They were fine. And then
Yes, I'm trying to figure this all out here.
It's okay. This is very casual open chat. So what you need to do, you are perfect. We can't see you, but go up to the top of your computer screen, and wherever the YouTube video is playing, not the Hangouts, but the YouTube video, just left click and mute that tab. And I think you already did it.
I did it.
Yay.
Yeah, now I can't see any of you guys.
You can't what?
I can't see any of you guys. I can't see the chat.
Right. That's the only problem.
Oh, there it is.
If you mute the site, then...
I found the chat.
Okay, so tell us about your sand. Tell us what happened and what you experienced. Go ahead.
Well, when it came to my tank being bare bottom, initially I loved the ease of the husbandry with it. Very easy to see where detritus and whatnot had built up, and I could easily vac. However, further down the road, I felt like I needed a better cleanup crew in the tank, and the bare bottom tank wasn't going to really allow for the proper environment for me to have the cleanup crew that I think I needed in there to make it more of a balanced ecosystem. So I decided to go ahead and add the sand. And another thing was not painting the bottom of the tank. In hindsight, I would have definitely painted the bottom and might have been able to appreciate the aesthetics more so of the bare bottom tank.
Gotcha. So you really did the sand because you might not have had you painted the bottom, and you wanted this cleanup crew and you wanted different things, and it was the answer for you. Completely understand. And I love how you described how you did it. Go ahead, and I'm going to shut up and let you talk. How did you do it, and what happened?
Well, basically it was just a massive water change. I drained the tank probably more than 50%. My tank is a 60-gallon rimless cube running on a sump, and removed about 50% of the water, removed the ponies, put them in a 5-gallon bucket with a bubbler and a hitch, made sure temperature and everything was the same. I used the water from the water change to fill the bucket, so there was no change of water there for them. I had rinsed the sand really well. I used a Seachem dry sand. Flushed it out really, really well, added it by the cup to the bottom of the tank, and filled it back up. I used some Seachem Clarity to help attach to the particles of sand and drop them to the bottom. Ran the tank heavy, kept changing out the filter sock until it ran clear. It took about 24 hours, and then checked all the parameters in the tank and put the seahorses back in. And there was no issue with that transition for them. In fact, it was quite funny because Phoebe and Abby, my two female seahorses who came from Dan, had never seen sand before.
Wow. Right.
And so the reaction was quite childlike. They were rolling in it. They were pecking at it. They were blowing in it. It was hysterical.
Oh my gosh. I hope you have a video of that somewhere, but go on. Go on.
I wish I had. I tried to, but you know they're persnickety. They only perform when they want to.
Right.
But they played around in the sand for a good week or so till they got used to it. But I love the cleanup crew that I have now. If I could just figure out the diatom issue and get that knocked out, I think I'll be in good shape.
Well, with that, it usually does eventually go away on its own. I know Cheryl probably is helping you on that, and she'll have the best advice. But it's sometimes with that stuff it sucks, but it's waited out. But the fact that you say that the seahorses really kind of love the sand is really making me rethink my opinion. I mean, I love your story. Here, I would love to see them rolling around in sand. That's so cool.
It really was. It was hysterical to watch.
And you did say, Salty asked, and you had answered in the chat that there was no mini cycle. I keep looking weird. Okay. There was no mini cycle. Did you, obviously I know you, so I know you probably tested, and there was no ammonia, nitrite, anything after that at all?
No, none whatsoever. I did not have a mini cycle at all. I have well-established rock in there that I started out with initially dry. Of course, the tank had been running with the seahorses in it for 10 and a half months, not including the cycle time. And I have two huge, the 12 by 12 Marine Pure plates in my sump. Mm-hmm. And I also have a box of the Marine Pure spheres in my sump. And I ran heavy carbon after I did it. So,
well, I don't
know if it was luck.
Oh no, you just answered it for me. Those Marine Pure are I just think they're absolutely amazing. The Brightwell bricks are also absolutely amazing. No, wait, am I saying that wrong? I know there's two. It's Marine Pure. Is that the one by Brightwell? Or is it the other way around?
That's a great question, Kelly. I'm not exactly sure who the
I do this
person is, the company Marine Pure.
I do this every time. I'm going to look it up real quick because it's going to drive me crazy. Okay, well, my question then is, you obviously avoided the mini cycle. How did you prepare the sand? Did you already go through that? I mean, did you rinse it crazy, and it was dry?
I did rinse it crazy. It was dry, and it's a fine sand, and so I did rinse it in 5-gallon buckets, one bag at a time, stirring constantly with the hose run in it until it ran the water clear coming out. That was the labor of love. Mm-hmm. I will not deny that, but very well worth it because I did not have the typical cloudiness that I see in a tank. When I added sand to my reef tank, I used to have a 90-gallon mixed reef tank. That was obnoxious, how much cloudiness the live sand produced because you don't rinse it. But rinsing this out really well and starting off dry, I think, was an advantage to the tank not clouding up significantly when I added it.
Absolutely. I looked it up while you were talking. I was listening, though. Sorry. But the Marine Pure, I think, is its own company, actually, is what I'm getting from Google as we speak. And the Brightwell bricks.
The live sand produced because you don't rinse it.
Did somebody come in?
But rinsing this out really well and starting off dry, I think, was an advantage.
No big deal, guys. But whoever's got it playing in the background, mute the tab up in the left-hand corner. Or up with your left click. Okay. Anyhow, So Brightwell bricks are similar. The two problems that people had with these products in the past, first we had the Brightwell bricks were kind of falling apart, and the Marine Pure, they had some people claiming that it was releasing aluminum or something like that. Anyways, both companies, corrected those issues. And both of those products, I don't care. Get the bricks. I don't care which type you choose. They're both amazing, and they are amazing. So I guarantee you that helped. And then of course your labor of love, rinsing all that sand, that had to be hell. But And so, go ahead. Oh, I thought you were saying something. Okay, so my next question is, how long has it been since you did that? Added the sand.
I want to say I added it maybe in July or August.
Okay.
It's been a minute.
And
The tank was a year old in September, so I did it at 10 and a half months. So yeah, right around July or August.
And Phoebe and Abby are still digging it and no problems. The only problem is the diatoms, right?
That's correct. Yeah, they're still digging it. They don't play in it as much, but I still find sand on their tails every now and again.
Jeez. Not to interrupt really quick, I want to say, Salty Reef, you're in here. Speak up and say that. If you change the name of your channel, we need to know that. Hey, Murphy. And absolutely tell everybody, and we'll put a link up if you give it to me, because I'll look you up afterwards. We want to definitely support each other and follow each other's channels and everything. Pat, everybody. You guys, let anybody in that wants to come in. Feel free, open chat. And back to Lisa. Sorry about that, honey. Okay, so, I mean, this was a success. Bottom line is that even with seahorses, you changed the sand, you added sand after the tank was established. I do believe that that has a big play in this. In the Marine Pure blocks had a big play, but bottom line is you did it successfully. And Salty, did you have any questions for her, or did I cover them?
No, you covered them.
Okay. All right. Hey, Lisa, what sand did you use? Just if you don't mind my asking.
It was a Seachem dry sand. I can look it up really quick. I don't remember the exact name.
Not that big a deal. No big deal. Since I have you and you've actually come in, yay! Thank you so much. Tell me what's going on in your world. What's going on with you? What's going on with your seahorses? Any other tanks? Tell me about you. Talk.
The sand I found was the Seachem Meridian. That is what I used.
Gotcha.
It's a dry sand. It's very fine. Well, the seahorse tank is going through some transitions now. Like I said, I'm starting to really get frustrated with the diatom issue. And recently I have been contemplating revamping it a little bit. I'm really leaning towards going with a more natural habitat, removing some of the rock, removing some of the coral, and adding more macroalgae to have it look more like their natural habitat. Mm-hmm. Take some of the height out of the tank because I have the rock built up for a cave. Although the only thing that I hesitate to do that for is because Clyde, my lone male, who I don't know his history. He's very shy, and that's where he finds his quiet place. So I'm hesitant to remove the structure that I built for him to give them the look that I really want to lean towards in the future for this tank. But it's doing well, and I'm loving. I'm ready for one more. I think I'm going to max it out with 4.
Gotcha. Well, I wanted to, I'm sorry to interrupt. I wanted to say very quickly, in fact, here in a second, I'm going to see if I can add a picture in the middle of a stream. I want to see if I'm able to do that. But the tank that was in the magazine and all that blah, 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 my macroalgae tank that was, everybody loves, was so pretty. It had the exact same thing you're talking about, where it had a cave. And my male, funny enough, always went to that. That was his domain. He wasn't shy. That was just his domain. So I wonder if we're onto something here. Maybe these males like their little caves. I don't know. But he would go there, especially if he was pregnant. That would be his hangout. Nobody else went in. That was his place. And I made sure that he could get out the back or the front. But my point is that I was able to place algae, different species in different places, and grow all over the rocks, so it looked like a big, pretty algae thing, but there was rock underneath. So just a thought.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. That'd be something that I can incorporate with some of the rock. I do want to remove some because, like I said, I want to take some of the height out of the tank, so
Sure.
there's more swimming room at the top. I love this tank, the 60-gallon cube. I love the aesthetic look of it, but I think if I ever do another Seahorse tank, my build will be bigger, and the tank will definitely have more horizontal space in addition to the 24 inches of vertical space.
You sound like every other Seahorse keeper ever. I mean, I'm just saying, I say the same thing. Every time I'm like, I'm going bigger, I'm going high, wider, they need more room. And then we see all these people like, can I put them in a 5-gallon? And it's like, you know, but anyways.
I'm
go ahead.
regretting the decision that I'm regretting the decision of having sold my 90-gallon triple drain Planet aquarium a couple months back. I should have kept it for the seahorses.
Oh, and it was planted too. It was a freshwater Planet. Is that what you said?
No, it was a reef. It was a mixed reef tank. My
Oh.
90.
Oh. And you got rid of it?
I did. I sold it. I sold it.
Oh.
Running both aquariums just became a little too time consuming for work.
I hear you.
So
I mean,
the
it is.
seahorses are my baby. So they stayed.
Of course, of course. And I can't believe, and you know, and your seahorses in particular, we won't go into it, but your seahorses in particular are very special. So I'm so glad to hear that they're doing well. When you did
Well,
have,
thank you.
I'm sorry, when you did run your reef tank, you said it was mixed, right? And what did you
Yes.
have? A lot. The problem I'm having with this channel in particular is we've got seahorse people and reef people, and Dan and I have actually talked about it a lot. In that I am going to try to do a couple of different streams where I can focus on coral tanks or reef tanks and seahorse tanks. But as Dan pointed out, it's really important that all of us get together, and whether we're talking about seahorses for a second or talking about, you know, reef tank for a second, we all learn from each other, and it's all water chemistry, and it's all good. So I don't mean to get away from the seahorses. I want to hear more about the seahorses, but I'm just curious about your old reef tank, and like, what was your sump setup, and was it very successful for you? Do you have anything that you could say that, or that you would want to tell that really worked for you with the reef, or? That was
The
a
reef
weird
tank.
question. Sorry.
That's okay. The reef tank was actually gifted to me from my father. That's where I started off with having an aquarium to begin with. I grew up with an aquarium in the home. My father always had one, and it was always salt water. He had it set up as a 75 with a canopy and a sump, but I will say it was very antiquated in comparison to where we ended up eventually bringing that tank. He was replacing floors, took it down and didn't want to put it back up, and gave it to me. I brought it home against my husband's wishes, and we set it up. But it ran with, we ended up replacing just about everything within what my father had gifted me. The 75 became a 90. The sump got replaced. We learned a lot. A lot of the mistakes that I made in just learning the basic husbandry and chemistry of keeping a tank was learned on my 90-gallon. So it basically turned out to be my guinea pig.
Yeah.
For getting into the hobby. It had softies in it. I love zoanthids, so we had a lot of zoanthids in there. And I'm also a huge fan of LPS. I love the movement of LPS. So that's predominantly what was in the tank. It was ran with 3 old school Hessel lights that my father had on it. We ended up adding reactors and dosers, and the reef tank was a lot more work in keeping the coral with the dosing and keeping the alkalinity and the calcium up. And I actually find this easier in that regard. Keeping the seahorse tank doesn't seem as tricky to me as balancing all those different additives to keep coral very happy in a reef tank. I will say that. But I enjoyed it very much.
I'm going to interrupt you because I have a question, but I also want to say a mask just appeared, yet I had no notification. I'm going to figure this out, you guys, but whoever just donated a mask, thank you so much. I want to make sure to thank anyone who does those kind of things, but I didn't get a notification. So I just had a plant coming out of my head. That was so cool. Thank you, guys. And whoever you are, I will acknowledge you next week, I promise. And that being said, Lisa, so you talked about the learning curve, and I couldn't agree more. I learned on my reef tank, and then I did all the seahorse tanks much better because of it. Did you have a refugium on the reef?
I did have a refugium on the reef tank. I ran Chaeto in it.
Okay. And what we talked last week, actually, no, I'm sorry, we talked on Dave's stream. I'm still in the stream. We talked on Dave's stream. How did you run the refugium? Meaning, what light did you have over it and that kind of thing? What worked for you?
You know, the light was not, I don't know the brand of it. It was one that we bought over the internet that just screwed into a typical light fixture that we DIY'd into the system underneath. Initially, it was bare, no sand or anything in the refugium section. And then down the road, we ended up adding sand and then we switched out the Chaeto to a Caulerpa, which I liked better than the Chaeto. I found the Chaeto to blow around a lot and wind up in the top.
Gotcha.
But it ran well. There was a lot of activity in that fish tank, a lot of copepods and amphipods. It did good. It was very pretty.
Well, now I have yet another question. Once you get to talking on Wine Wednesday and the wine's a-flowing, I got lots of questions. If you have to go, just let me know. No biggie. But I personally steer clear of Caulerpas because I have had so many bad experiences with that. And I know you and I have talked about the series I'm doing on macros and some articles I'm writing. In fact, I'd love to get with you on the side and get your opinions and help on that. But anyways, point being, I just have had some bad luck with Caulerpas. Lucy posted a picture on Facebook the other day of what happened when her tank was when the Caulerpa died and da-da-da-da. And so my question was, when you switched from Chaeto to Caulerpa, you didn't switch the lighting or anything and it just worked out? I mean, it just...
Did not switch the lighting. Yes, it did work out. I left that light on 24/7 though. That light never went off.
Gotcha. So no reverse light cycle stuff with that. With the Caulerpa, you just left it on.
I left it on to try and avoid an issue.
No, I mean, I think that's probably smart, and I'm glad you never had an issue. How often did you have to harvest the Chaeto or the Caulerpa?
Right before I took it down, I was having to harvest out of it at least once a week.
Wow.
Yeah, it was jam-packed. It was so thick I could barely get my fingers through it.
Right. And now I'm going to look really stupid because we get to talking and then I forget who's who and what's what. But you do use algae in the seahorse tank now or no? You're going to?
I do have some macro in there now, but I'm looking to add more of it, more diversity, and definitely more for nutrient removal.
Gotcha. And is there any sump on the tank?
There is a sump on my tank. I'm running a skimmer on it. I have an Aqua Excel skimmer on it. It runs with a filter sock in it. I've got the Marine Pure in there, and I'm also
Right, that's right.
running a DIY algae turf scrubber that I put online several months ago that I'm finding works well, but I think I cleaned it too quickly
Mm.
because it's not growing back as fast as I would like. So, again, this is a learning curve for me. This is something new that I'm playing with, but I'm liking the results so far
Well,
of having.
now I'm curious. You said that you changed the sand about you said June, July, something like that. When did you put the algae scrubber on? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I added the sand and the scrubber went online. I'd have to look back in my logbook, but I want to say it's been 2.5 months now since
Okay.
the scrubber went online. Yeah. So I have it hooked up to the return hose from my chiller. I drilled a piece of PVC pipe with a slit completely down one side of it. It slides into a coupling that fits onto the hose, almost like an elbow.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took some plastic wedding veil screen and used. I actually should post the video that I put on the Seahorse Source Facebook page on my YouTube page to show how it's done. But I use zip ties and put a cap at the other end of the PVC pipe so the water doesn't flow out the end, and it trickles down the veil into the sump, and it's working like a charm.
That's awesome. Lisa, first of all, I want to say we support each other in here. Please feel free to post a link to your YouTube, and if not, I will. And if you don't put it on your YouTube, let me know. We'll put it over here for sure because that's a very or we'll reshare it because that's something everyone would very much like to see. And it's interesting to me. I'm gonna guess. Obviously a lot of times when we talk about these things, there are so many details. You and I know Dan very well, and the reason that Dan likes to actually call someone when there's an issue or when there's a question, or be online with someone when there's an issue or a question, is because he can, literally ask so many questions that he can diagnose what might really be going on instead of just shooting off an answer. But I'm going to shoot from the hip here and guess that changing the sand, you didn't have the cycle, everything was going good, you put on the scrubber, and then it probably, your tank may have had extra organics and such because of the sand change or the sand putting in and such, and so the algae grew on the scrubber grew greatly, and then all of a sudden, you cleaned it, and it's probably taken out most of those based on the harvest of the algae, and you're probably not seeing as much growth because of the fact that you run your tank so well. But of course that could be wrong. I'm just thinking that I wouldn't worry too much. Is your scrubber, is it one screen then?
Yes, it's only one screen. It's not very large, maybe 12 inches by 12 inches, maybe a little larger, not much. I don't have a very big sump on the bottom. I don't have a whole lot of room.
Mm-hmm.
I think ideally with a different shaped tank, I would have a different shaped stand and could afford a much larger scrubber because I'd have a larger sump.
Right, gotcha. And my only other question was when you did actually clean the scrubber, and you said you think you might have cleaned it too well. Did you take it all off?
No, I did not. I only did half.
Oh, well then, yeah, you didn't take too much off. I really seriously, don't take my word for it, obviously, but I would guess that it's just that you're running a great tank and you're keeping your organics and such in check, and so it's just not growing as fast because whatever was in there has been taken up and removed the first time you cleaned it. But yeah, let us know. What light do you run on the scrubber, by the way?
Just a basic household 5000K light bulb, nothing fancy.
Okay.
looking to put a new light in there. I'm debating on whether I should go with one of the red color spectrum. I see a lot of people who are running DIY algae reactors running with a red light. So I'm wondering if I should incorporate that to get a little bit more growth. But as you stated, it could just very well be because the nutrients have been removed from the tank and it's not being overfed. But I still feel more comfortable if I saw more growth knowing that it's working.
Well, I just, you know what? As I said, we get to talking, and I hear, so many people say things that I kind of confuse them. I forgot too that you have the diatoms right now. That's probably part of it too. That as they developed, they're taking, they're playing a part too. And when they go away, you'll probably see more growth because they're taking things up too. I'm just trying to think. I know you didn't ask for advice, and please, everyone watching, and Lisa, thank you for coming in. Please don't ever think that there's absolutely no judgment here whatsoever. This is all just us trying to help each other, bottom line, and, there's no judgment ever. So I just don't want anybody to ever think that I was ever saying, asking a question for any other reason than to learn and share. And with that said, I would say also too that check that lighting, because I use household, bulbs too, or I did, and that's actually what happened to my reef, is that I was using cheaper bulbs because I didn't want to invest in the reef light or the refugium lighting, and one dimmed too quickly, and all my chaeto died and totally destroyed my reef. So if it doesn't start growing, or if it starts looking light colored, or just doesn't do anything for a while, or the diatoms go away and it's still not doing anything, maybe play with lighting like you said. You're already on it. I'm just agreeing, basically. But
yeah, I have to do some revamping of the plumbing under there, and so some things are going to be shifted around, which is why I'm waiting to invest in a different light for it, because I know I have to do some work under there, and I want to see what kind of room I have after the work is done with the plumbing.
Sure. And one other thing that I wanted to kind of throw out there for us to all chit chat about. Hey, to everybody joining, it's open chat. Feel free to join anytime you want. If you need a link, let me know, but it should already be in there. Lisa was nice enough to join and chat with me and Salty Reef. But if anybody else has anything they want to talk about or has some input, please feel free. Otherwise, we're going to chit-chat on Wine Wednesday. And now I completely forgot what I was going to say, of course. What was I going to say to you? Geesh.
I had a question.
Yeah, Salty, shut me up anytime. Go.
What lighting is she using over her display tank?
I am running an AI Prime HD on the display.
How do you feel about that? Because I've never had an AI Prime, and I've heard so many good things.
I love it. I just feel the light is very strong. I'm still constantly trying to figure out the ultimate setting for macro when I get more macro into the tank. Right now I'm running the settings from the website that Dimitri had set up for his. It's his settings. I just have it reduced in intensity because it is quite bright and set up for a different tank than a seahorse tank. But he does run a lot of macro, I believe. So that's the one I picked.
Hey, Lisa, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I want you to continue, but this is like a huge deal. I just want to say thank you so much. And it dinged at the very moment. Cruz just did a huge super chat to the channel. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and me for all of these years. Thank you, Cruz Arias, who's actually a sponsor of the channel also. Very cool. Thank you. Apologies for the interruption, Lisa, but I just, I almost cried. Okay, go on, Lisa. Talk. Sorry.
No worries. It's fine. It's always nice to have a donation. You know that people really appreciate what you're doing here, Kelly.
Absolutely.
I know I do. It is a great way for us to get together and exchange ideas and information and what's worked and what's not. Although it's all science, I feel like there's so many different approaches to each individual aquarium.
Absolutely.
Everyone's is all the time. We share so many of the same issues and problems. So this is wonderful that you do this, so we can try and figure things out together to find out what works best or what doesn't work. I've done a lot of what doesn't work.
Okay. Well, okay. First of all, in response to you, Lisa, I've done a lot that doesn't work too. And actually, some of the better successes I've had are because of people like you and like Cruz and like, you know, this helping each other does really matter. I appreciate that people do appreciate it. And I'm so glad that you came in here. I wanted to say, if you want to play with it, because the more people that come in here and try to do this, like you just did, you just decided, well, you know what? I'm going to go in there and tell them about my sand. I'm not going to worry about this. I can turn off my camera. I don't have to show my face, you know. And the more that we tell people how to do this, I don't know where Dan is tonight, Dan, but he's usually here. And the more that we tell people how to do this, the better it'll be. And I did also want to mention everything that you've talked about tonight. If you did want to, and I'm not asking you to, I'm just saying if you did want to, go over to that tank or that sump or whatever you're talking about and point the camera there and turn your camera on, you could actually show it. So this could literally be a way that someone with a 6 seahorse, you know, people post these pictures and you're like, okay, so is that a seahorse? And you don't even know what they're trying to say. They could actually show it here and we could see it and help. So let's, you know, spread that word. And I did want to also say, K-Town Reefer, you are cheap. You might be my first, but you're cheap. I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. Totally kidding. That's not what this is about. And then finally, I wanted to say, Lisa, I felt like I interrupted you. You were answering Salty's question. Did I interrupt you? If so, can you go back to that? Or have we gone too far past? Hello?
Well, I think Salty was just asking which light I was using. I don't know what question he might have had about the light.
I'm not sure.
Mostly spectrum for the just what lights to run with the softy / macroalgae tanks.
It's definitely been a delicate balance. Some of the macros like more light, some of them don't. That's why I'm so interested in this macro series that Kelly's finishing up with, because I definitely want to lean more. I love my Gorgonians. I think I'll always have those in the tank. The seahorses love them too. But I have leather in there. I have Zoas in there. I have some Blue Ridge in there. Quite a few different varieties of corals, and I guess I'm kind of bored with them. Looking tank. I don't know if you guys saw the post that I on this Facebook page that we were talking about
Lisa.
Julian Sprung and seahorses earlier, and he a few days ago had visited a tank that was macro heavy seahorse tank, and it was really a nice looking tank, and it's something very similar to what I'd like to lean towards. I was trying to get the link in here, but I don't know how to do that either.
I will try, because I know exactly what post you're talking about, where it was he had visited. It was like in another language, right? Most of it, the post.
No, what I saw was in English. Here I can put it there. I just sent it. The other chat group I was trying to talk in wouldn't allow all the characters of the link. Can you guys see?
Are you trying? Okay. hang on, Lisa, because it's breaking up a little bit. And I'm going to say, Dave, when you watch this later or when we talk later, this is what I meant. When my stream goes for a while, all of a sudden it gets really choppy. And what Lisa's saying is really important. I don't want it to be choppy. And are you talking about in the link in the Hangout? Yes, you are. I see it.
I am in Hangouts.
Right. And when you post in there, the only people that see it are the people in the Hangout. So what I'm going to go ahead, Salty.
If she posted it in YouTube, I can approve the link.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know it had to be approved. People can't post links?
Only moderators can.
Well, that's news to me. Okay. All right. Well, here, I just copied, and let me see if I can then paste it for Miss Lisa. Let's just see.
It won't allow me to do it because it's 96 characters over what the chat will accept.
Did it go for me? It better not tell me no. Dang it. Did the link come up?
Yeah, it worked for you.
Okay. Okay, and really quick, let me close it. I want to say K-Town, I don't have to pretend there's a 0. I appreciate any support. And just to be clear, when I say support, just as Lisa and I were talking about just a moment ago, I mean subscribing. I mean sharing the information. I mean telling people to come to Wine Wednesday or sharing articles, as Lisa has just done, that are good. Sharing good information. This is all support. I make a joke of the face masks. I make a joke, not a joke. I'm trying to make it fun to donate, but donating could be as simple as subscribing to the channel, liking the page, liking what we're doing. Bottom line, I just don't want anybody to think it's about that. But K-Town, you don't need to add zeros. I love you, and I appreciate you, and thank you for the donation. All right. And now that that's all out of the way, I'm sorry, guys. I'm really uncomfortable with this whole thing, so I'm trying to get better at it. I will, you know. And let's stop Kelly rambling on and on and on. I was going to really quickly post the link again, just in case anybody wanted to join. And I had a question for Lisa. That's the admin in this chat. My question was, is the link that I am providing not working? And you can answer that when you have time. My final question is it breaking up to all of you guys, or is it just me? I think that it's a Hangouts thing, but I could be wrong.
It's a Hangouts thing.
Okay. And then finally, Lisa, unfortunately, Lisa that's talking in here right now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to ask, could you repeat what you were just saying? Because it was very good, and I heard part of it, but not all of it. Why did we just post that link?
The link shows a seahorse tank that's macroalgae dominant. And so I was stating that I'm trying to find a nice balance with this AI Prime Light for keeping the coral and the macroalgae happy.
Very good. And, you know, I've told you guys that I am going to finally someday finish these videos and articles on my personal experiences, but I'm absolutely interested in yours. I think I messaged you on the side at one point and said we need to talk because I'd love to hear what is working for you. With the AI Prime, you're able to actually see the actual levels of spectrum, correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
I can set it by percentage.
That's amazing.
Have you ever?
Go ahead.
Have you ever checked out AI's website? Because they have different settings on their website for whatever use you want to do.
I have. I've used and tried quite a few of them. And as I was saying earlier, the one I'm currently using is from the AI Prime site. If you go to their webpage, you'll see the faces of 5 or 6 different people that work for the company, and it highlights their tank with their particular light of choice. And I'm using Dimitri's settings because his tank had a lot of macroalgae in it.
Very cool. And I didn't know that, Salty, so that's really good to know. I know that Krista, I'm not sure who's familiar with Krista. I won't give her last name, but she is the macro queen on Facebook, even better than me. And she has an AI Prime, and she recently messaged, and we were discussing levels, and she's having some difficulties too. And unfortunately, because I have not tried the AI Prime, I don't have answers for her typically. So I'll be curious to hear what you learn, Lisa.
I actually have Krista's settings. She sent them to me, and I did try those for a while as well. I'm wondering what issues she's having. Maybe we need to talk. We need to bring her.
Yes, we should bring her up here. Absolutely. But I can't call her out right now, and I probably shouldn't have. But I can't even remember. It was honestly, she just messaged and asked me a little bit about Spectrum. And that is what everybody wants to, perfect. And the problem is that, like, for someone like me, I can tell you what's worked for me. I can tell you the specifics about the products that I've used, but then I can't turn around and tell you about a product I haven't used. You know what I'm saying? And Cruz, I see that you're in here, and I'll be completely honest, with most of my lighting questions, I go to Tulio or I go to Cruz. Those are the two people that I ask about lighting and trust for lighting advice. Just like Dan with Seahorses, it's those guys for lighting. So I'm curious, Cruz, if you're still in here and watching, if you have thoughts on AI Prime and the spectrums that should be chosen. And he did actually mention Miracle Mud helps the seagrass thrive and etc. I told you guys earlier that he was trying to get me to do seagrass and Miracle Mud. I'm going to do it. I hate sand. I hate it. But anyhow, I'm just trying to incorporate the comments into the stream. Sorry, guys. But if you do feel like coming in, I think that what we're going to do is we're going to have Cruz on as a special guest in a couple weeks when he has time. And he can talk about lighting to a deeper extent. And anybody that you guys want me to ask to come in here to talk about specific things like lighting, I know Tulio would come. I have no doubt. Reef Brights, he'd come. So just let me know if there's people that you would like for me to bring in, because us all sharing is terrific and we learn from each other. But sometimes getting the pros in here helps a bit. Because I wish I could give more of a response on the AI primes, but I just can't. So we're going to depend on you, Lisa. You're going to be the answer. And I see Dan joined. Hi, Dan.
That's a lot of pressure.
Sorry, pressure is
Hello.
my middle name. Wine's my last name. Okay. Hi, Dan. What's up?
Hello. Me, I guess.
You're out. Okay, I won't even go there. Anyhow, we were just discussing Miss Lisa. Lisa is in here tonight. Very cool. And she was just telling us about replacing the sand in Phoebe and Abby and what's the Clyde's seahorse
Clyde.
tank, and how it worked out in sand. And we were just chit-chatting about all of these things. And the one thing that I didn't get a chance to ask Lisa yet, and I'll ask Dan too, is my which would you choose question tonight was, which do you think is better if you had to choose? That's the whole point to which would you choose, is that I understand both answers are good. But would you prefer the more natural setup for a tank, not a breeding display, Dan, for a tank? But do you think that the more natural setup with the algae doing the filtration and self-sustaining system, is that going to last longer and do better than a tank with all the bells and whistles and equipment and apex and da-da-da and yada yada? Which would you choose? Dan, you go first.
Me personally?
You.
Okay. I would choose the natural setup.
You would. And isn't that interesting, everyone, to hear from him? Okay, tell me why.
Well, when I say natural setup, I'm thinking of sand and macros, a little bit of rock. I am thinking of a sump with, proper filtration and what have you. But as far as all the gadgetry, I don't think all of that is necessary on that type of a tank. As long as you've got good filtration removing the organics, I just don't see the need for everything else. It'd be different if it was a coral tank, I think.
Yes, and we are talking coral and seahorses here. Now, with the coral tank, would you do the bells and whistles then?
I don't know because I've never really kept coral, so I really, I don't have any firsthand experience to say one way is better or not.
Good. I want to quickly. Sorry, Salty. I just wanted to say, Cruz. I haven't read the comments. I don't know what's going on. I saw Lucy say it's not funny. Kiss her for me. Whatever's going on, I will look later. And I'm sorry. And thank you for coming. We'll have you as a guest to where you can actually help people with your knowledge very soon. Sorry to interrupt, Salty. Go ahead.
I don't think all the bells and whistles are needed for a coral tank either.
Okay.
I think a lot of it's maintenance.
Maintenance, yes, unless you're lazy like me and you want a tank that you don't have to do all that maintenance. So that's, and that's just honesty. And if you look at the people that are starting aquariums today, they want easy. We whether you're talking politics and we're not going to here, but politics or society or whatever you want to talk about, that next generation, they're looking for easy. And so saying that the natural setup works as long as you do all these water changes, I'm not sure how that's going to work out for the future of the hobby. It's just something I wanted to throw out there. But Lisa, I wanted to know your answer. What do you think, since you have kept both reef and seahorse tank? Which do you think is a better method?
Well, I can't speak for both completely because I haven't done a completely natural tank yet.
Okay.
Which is what we were discussing earlier. That's what I'm leaning towards. I've done the bells and whistles, and I'd rather try and duplicate Mother Nature than have the bells and whistles, although they do sometimes help. I don't think I'd ever run a tank without a skimmer. That would be absolutely one piece of equipment I would never get rid of, and rely on my skimmer in addition to having the macro. I'd definitely go with a more natural system.
I was going to say, that's the other part of it is defining natural. Because obviously if you go completely natural, I gave the example in my post of Alex, who does a seriously self-sustaining system. But he has a skimmer, I believe. I really think he has a skimmer somewhere. And that skimmer, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously a man-made product, but Mother Nature's out there skimming. So, the ocean. So I don't know. I'm just curious.
Well, when I think of the bells and whistles and the tank not being quote unquote natural, is all the additives, the media and whatnot that we add, the carbons and the phosphate removers and the nitrate removers and all of those tools that we have at our disposal. If I could not have to use any of that and run it solely on how the natural ecosystem runs, I would most certainly live that way.
And this was a terrible time for Cruz to leave because he would have piped up right now and said Miracle Mud. And yeah, he would have. And I've actually, just for the record, I've met Langsai. When I first started this stream, I was talking about the 2014 debate between Julian Sprung and I'm going to forget the darn name again, Jake Adams, about refugiums, and this is in 2014, and they were discussing all of these things, and you see towards the end, Langsai actually stand up and say, there's an alternative right in the middle. Let me tell you about it. And it was actually really cool. And he talked about Miracle Mud. I have used it. It does work. And actually Cheryl and I were talking earlier about the fact that she doesn't have any ciliates in her breeding tanks. And I just sometimes think that when you use some of that natural stuff, there's something about it that makes a difference. And I want to hear your response to that, Dan, because I know that as a breeder, when you're breeding, you have to steer clear of most of the natural things. So do you think that there's something to that, or?
I don't know. I think philosophically, I kind of agree with what Lisa's saying. When I think of a natural tank, I don't think of it being just, the box with the ingredients in it and that's it. I think of it as having some type of mechanical filtration. If I was setting up my perfect display tank, I would probably have a skimmer. I'd probably have a UV sterilizer, and I would have, some type of particulate removal filtration in the sump, and I'd have some rock in my macros, and I would probably go with a layer of fine sand and good lighting. And that's maybe not on an algae scrubber, but I consider all of that part of what naturally happens in a wild that we have count for. What I don't want is 10,000 reactors and dosing pumps and all kinds of other equipment to maintain. Even those things do things for you. Some of that equipment has to be, depending upon what it is, has to be calibrated, maintained. There's more electrical draw. There's all kinds of things that can happen with it. And some of those things, the media's got to be changed out. And, it's not, there's a larger learning curve instead of sticking with the basics of how the system works. And in a seahorse tank specifically, some things don't matter like they do in a hardcore reef tank that's got a lot of very sensitive corals.
Well, I do agree with both of you, even if we are talking about coral. I think, and I should have made that a little more clear in my which would you choose, because I do think that going really completely natural, I don't know. You couldn't because you're not Mother Nature. There's no way you could do that. Go ahead.
Reef has got a lot of very sensitive corals.
What happened?
Well, I do agree with both of
Okay,
you.
somebody mute your YouTube, please. Okay, thank you. And, but yeah, I mean, I don't think you could actually literally do that. Obviously you can. I've seen Alex's tank, and I think he does have a skimmer, but besides that, he's got it all. But it's ridiculous to get that going. For a normal reef tank, I think that natural has to include those basics like skimmer and stuff. Maybe not UV, but who was that?
The average.
Go ahead, Salty.
The average reef tank can't do what Mother Nature does because we don't have the water volume.
Right. Absolutely.
But we're also missing some other things too. You've got wind and you've got sun and current. You got to have some equipment.
And Joe,
I think that
you go ahead, Salty. Sorry.
I think some of the equipment we have actually helps replicate what Mother Nature actually really does.
I agree. And that's why, by natural, I don't mean no pumps. I don't mean I don't mean you can't have a wave maker or whatnot. I just think that, I don't know. I get very jealous when I see like reef dudes, and I'm not trying to call him out because I'm saying I'm jealous because it's amazing when I see him tell Alexa to go dose his tanks or, Alexa, feed my tanks. That's awesome. But I just don't know. I don't know. That's why I ask these questions is I'm not sure how I feel about it. And I want to say very quickly, I'm sorry, but Joseph Beardy, however you say your last name, if you want to come in and definitely message me on the side. But some of the things you're saying are like literally scaring me because you brought up ghost pipefish and now you're bringing up leafy sea dragons. And I'm wondering what you're saying. Have you ever thought about them? And I'm wondering who you are and where you're from. And if I know you, I apologize. But the bottom line is that the fish that you're bringing up are not for hobbyists, in my opinion. And of course, they're amazing. And I do hope that professionals keep them and public aquariums succeed with breeding them. But have I ever thought about leafy sea dragons? I absolutely adore leafy sea dragons along with Wheaties, but I wouldn't ever want them. I don't want to see them in the hobby at this point. So sorry for that interruption, but I just, it's making me wonder about the comments. Salty, any thoughts? No.
On the leafy sea dragons?
No, just I mean, like, is it interesting? Do you think that leafy sea dragons and ghost pipefish and that kind of thing should be in the hobby right now?
I don't think anybody's ready for that.
Right.
Well, I would argue the point that there are some people ready for it, but the numbers are extremely small. And it's not for the average hobbyist. The cost of keeping a leafy sea dragon tank can be very expensive, and his skill level needs to be high.
Yeah, I agree.
And he said leafy sea dragons are going to be up for sale soon, hopefully. Well, to be extremely clear, I think that's fabulous. If you are having, and I think I know who you are now, and welcome to the channel. And if you are having success in breeding the leafy sea dragons, then bravo, absolutely. I just hope that you are a responsible seller. That's all I have to say about that. And that's all I meant. I wasn't trying to make anything. I feel like I sounded a little harsh, and I apologize if I did, because I think that everything starts somewhere. 10 years ago, people would say the same thing about seahorses. What? You're going to put seahorses in a tank? You're terrible. And now we're like, that's not terrible. That's every day. Come on. So, great. I hope to see leafy sea dragons in the hobbyist with 10,000 gallon tank arena soon. I just hope that the sellers and the exporters and the everything are responsible about not wiping out or giving species a bad name. People think seahorses are so hard because people sold wild-caught crappy seahorses for so long. You know, am I totally off base here, guys? Thoughts?
No.
Okay, go ahead, Dan.
But the other factor is we've also learned a lot about how to keep seahorses.
Right.
And the same thing can be said with the dragons. The public aquariums are getting better. They too have had problems keeping them. But people are getting better at doing that. So as we learn more and our skill levels come up, things change.
And Joseph, as far as I know, Seahorse Savvy has weedy sea dragons. Could be wrong. But maybe they've added. Very cool. They've got a lot of cool things coming out. But I know Alyssa and Kyle, and I would certainly, I can't speak for them, but I would certainly say that they are extremely responsible breeders. And I would hope that they would, oh, you're only 15. Okay. Well, yes, Seahorse Savvy is an amazing company. I just don't think that they're going to sell them to just anybody, is my thoughts.
I agree.
Because, it takes, and when you asked about the ghost pipefish earlier and the video that you did, I will go watch it. I can't wait to see it. But it's just the species that you're talking about, when the hobby is ready for them, meaning we have had success breeding them at the pro level and it's trickled down to where hobbyists can keep them. Awesome sauce. But right now is not that time, in my opinion. Lisa, what do you think about all this? Am I off on something I should shut up about?
No, I don't think so. I have to agree with everyone. I don't think the hobby is ready for them yet, but that's not to say that it won't be in 20 years from now, 10 years from now, where we're having a live chat about keeping our leafies and weedies.
Right.
Because I know 20 years ago, I had a seahorse and it was almost unheard of back in the day of under gravel filters. And we knew nothing really about keeping them alive long-term in an aquarium. And here we are today. So I think there's room for it. There's a lot of work being done in trying to get them to breed in captivity, just the same as we've done with seahorses over the years. So I think it's definitely something in the future that might be available, and maybe more we learn about them through breeders who are willing to work with them, such as Alyssa Seahorse Savvy.
Yeah.
We can learn from what's going on with their experience with them, and that might trickle down for us. We'll see.
Yes, and I want to
See-
mention. Go ahead.
I agree with that. I think that the future of our hobby is endless. It's just a matter of knowledge and experience.
Agreed.
Yep, that's exactly what I think as well.
Sorry. I hate these hangouts because you don't have like a button to press to talk, and I always talk over people. Sorry, but and I couldn't agree more. And for the record, Seahorse Savvy is an amazing company, and I mean they're keeping these sea dragons alive and doing an excellent job with them. Bravo is all I got to say. I mean, I can't wait for them to be successful and do more with it. I know Seahorse Australia, Seahorse World in Australia. Chris, I think he was in here and may have left. He's having some interesting successes also with different species that we'll see. I agree with you guys that the hobby is endless. And part of the post that I made, the Which Would You Choose, was just looking back on how much has changed and how we can do things. However, I guess my passion about it, the reason I come across so is because doing things responsibly matters. Because we are being, as a hobby, we're being attacked by people who think the hobby is bad in general. And if things aren't done responsibly, it just fuels the fire. So that's all I meant. Just for the record, that's all I meant. And DM's Reef said, your pipefish is still going? Oh my gosh, Dan, I don't know if you remember DM's Reef, but he came in here and we talked about pipefish, and we weren't sure that he wouldn't have to start adding pods, and apparently it's still doing well. I'm gonna guess it's that miracle mud, but interesting. A whole year, and you've never added pods, huh? Whoever's gonna talk.
Kelly, I think there's a different way to ask that question of what do you prefer.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like a natural versus technology, maybe it'd be more like, would you prefer a more biological filtration versus all mechanical?
That's actually interesting. I always take suggestions, and you might just see that as the next Which Would You Choose. And the other one, which we were discussing earlier, Dave had to go apparently from his phone call, but he had made the comment that he thought that algae was always going to be better than bacteria. And I know many people who would disagree with that one.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I disagree.
Well, and I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. There's, it's all about us all learning from each other. But why do you disagree? Salty.
Because I think with the proper maintenance schedule and everything like that, I think if you stay on top of your tank, that algae is not going to be an issue, and your good bacteria is going to take care of most problems that you have. And that also depends on the water volume you have too.
Right. And I'm curious from the other two joiners also, Dan and Lisa, if you had to choose one or the other to be your main source of filtration, would you choose algae or bacteria? Dan, go first.
Probably bacteria.
Why?
Because I'm more familiar with it, for one, but I feel like you got to have some bacteria no matter what. So I would put my focus on that first. I think of macros as a accessory to help with certain parts, but I still think you need some bacteria in the tank.
And Lisa, any thoughts or adding?
I think I would agree with Dan and say that bacteria, because bacteria really is the absolute beginning and basis of it all, is it not?
Yeah.
The macro comes way after a bacteria in the chain of the ecosystem. So I would say bacteria.
Well, and just to be clear, in case Dave sees this later, I don't think he meant to put it in those tight parameters. I don't think he meant to say this or this. I like to do that to people to put them on the spot, because that's what I do. But also because it gets us all thinking. You know, so no harm to Dave. He probably meant something more specific as to a refugium. Salty, I can tell you're trying to talk. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think what Dave was trying to talk about is that the nuisance algae
Yes.
is stronger than the beneficial bacteria, and they hold on longer. So I think that's kind of what he was getting at.
And I would agree. And some people will actually use bacteria dosing to deal with that. In fact, I think Billy came in and left. I'm not sure if he can still see this, but I hope he would correct me if I'm incorrect, and I see somebody else just joined. But I believe that the Vibrant is, in fact, I know based on the back of the bottle that it is mainly bacteria, good bacteria. So a lot of people will combat things with good bacteria, but I would personally agree that algae will do a better job because when you're adding stuff from a bottle, it's just different. And I say that, but yet I use it. You know what I mean? I do bacteria dose. I am someone who absolutely supports, probiotics and the research and the things, good things that are coming out of that. It's just, I ask questions because there isn't an answer. There's every side of it. Go ahead.
My belief is that natural nuisance algae it's natural, and anything out of a bottle is, we don't know where it was created.
Well, I will say, I can see some joiners. I'm going to shut up and let you guys talk in a sec, but I will say that at MACNA 2017, last year, not this previous one, but the year before that, I met my all-time favorite idol until I met Dan, Dr. Tim. Dr. Tim Hovack, I believe is his name. Dr. Tim's, everybody knows Dr. Tim's, the bacteria, dosing supplements for the tank. And I met him, and I actually got to sit down with him and talk to him. And there's a difference when you've got a scientist putting specific strains that they know how to make sure that they can live in certain conditions for so long. It can work. I'm not against bottled stuff. It's just there's so many copycats that aren't the same. And I don't know. I'm rambling. Hello to the joiners. Who's here? I see DM's Reef and Tina.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Tina. How are you? How's your tanks? What's going on?
This has been really rough this week, but tanks are doing okay. They didn't get any attention for the last week.
Okay,
Mark ended up in the hospital with aspiration pneumonia. So today's the first day we've been able to get a hold of the clean them and everything. So, but we're doing all right. Everybody's okay.
Well, that's what matters, and I'm glad. Totally random, but Salty Reef, what are you drinking? Tell me it's beer or something. I keep hearing you crack a drink.
I think that was me, Kelly.
Oh.
And yes, I'm sporting the Coors Light tonight.
Okay. So, on Wine Wednesday, she's got the Coors. What are the rest of you drinking? That's important on Wine Wednesday.
Same here.
Coors Light?
Yep, same here.
How funny. All right.
I'm exciting. Ginger tea.
Ginger tea. Dan, you fail. All right. Tina, how are you drinking anything, or are you working on a doll, or what you doing?
Got water.
Water. Well, water starts it all, right? Hey.
Yeah. Yep. I need to drink a little more water right now. So.
I saw in the comments, Tina, you said you should see my bird's nest. Holy crap, it's gotten huge.
Yeah, just in this last week, it's like this big. It just got huge.
So during the time that you were not taking care of the tank, the bird's nest grew, yes?
Yep.
I know.
That's crazy.
No, it's not. I will tell you, And I'm sorry if I continue to speak of old interviews, but it's just that the information's fresh in my mind. When I interviewed Matt Dudley, he talked about the one coral that was hardest for him to keep. And this is a guy who, if you look at his SPS display, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. He's got every color of the rainbow, every type of SPS you could. It's ridiculous. And he has like equipment that you wouldn't even believe. I mean, I didn't even cover half of it in the interview. Anyhow, he said the one coral he could not do well with were bird's nest. And I have always done terrific with bird's nest. And I'm really thinking that no matter what the rules say or science says, I pretty much believe that those bird's nests like it dirty. They like it dirty. And they get something out of the water when it's dirty, you know?
Apparently.
Well, I'm glad it's doing so well. Go ahead, Salty.
I think the bird's nest is like the softy of the SPS.
I would have to agree.
So yeah, between the bird's nest and my plate coral, those two are the ones that grow the fastest in my tank, and it's really cool to see that now I actually have to frag it back because it's getting ready to touch something else, and I don't want it.
Gotcha. And Iguana's Sumpin' Ale for me. Oh, is this a drink, Carrie? Okay, sorry about that. You're going to have to introduce me to it. Dan, what's up with the tea? Is this a usual thing or what?
No, I've been back and forth with the doctors and all that stuff, and right now they're thinking it's probably some type of fungal infection is causing the underlying cause. So putting alcohol in the system is not good. The funguses will feed off of it.
Oh, yeah, I guess. Okay, I hear that. Well, then you're excused for tonight. Is there anything new? What?
That's a definite.
And I didn't know that, so informing me. Anything new going on at Seahorse Source, Dan?
Not really. I got one more shipment I'm going to put out before Christmas, which is, don't like shipping it this time, but I've agreed to it for the customer. And then it's wait till after the first and go back to, in the meantime, my daughter and I are trying to get things a little bit more organized and cleaned up. Finally got another dehumidifier. I got the humidity down from about 88% down into the upper 60s. It was starting to rain in the room.
Oh my gosh.
Well, this time of year, the AC doesn't run constantly, so the humidity was climbing rapidly, and I had to. These dehumidifiers today just don't last. I'm on my third one in a year.
I bet. And don't you have like the ridiculous system, right? It's not just a little one. It's you did your air conditioners, didn't you? I mean, you did this system, right? Or am I wrong?
I put a new system in. I put a new system in about a year ago. It's a mini split, and it's a high SEER unit. And if I put it on dehumidifying mode, the problem is that in order for it to dehumidify, it's got to cool. So that thing will bring. I keep the room down in Florida in between 70, 71 degrees. And if I put that thing in dehumidify mode, that room will get down to about almost 60 degrees.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
Rico did a video on, there's a system that you can actually put that it's an exhaust fan for your room that is controlled by humidity. It's supposed to help take all the humidity out of the room.
Well, that works in some locations. The problem that we have down here is the humidity outside is often high. And, the second problem is the heat. So, it's a trade-off in trying to balance things. There's very few times that we can actually open up the windows and let air go through naturally like I'd prefer to do.
Gotcha.
Dan, can I ask you a question about running your humidifier? Do you actually run it in the fish room or the separate portion of your house that the room's attached to?
You talking about the humidifier
Yeah.
or the dehumidifier?
The dehumidifier.
Okay. The dehumidifier is in the. I've sectioned off the fish area from the rest of the house. That was one of the problems we had to do with our mold issues, and the central AC or HVAC system keeps the rest of the house in anywhere from 50 to 55%. But the fish room itself, because of all the tanks and, I got some fans blowing on some of the tanks, and as much as I circulate the air, the humidity in there just climbs rapidly.
Do you find running that dehumidifier forces you to have to top off your tanks more frequently?
If the humidity is kept where I want it, yes. Because it's removing the moisture,
right.
And it also generates heat, so the AC runs more when I run the dehumidifier.
That makes sense. I thought about running a dehumidifier in my house too, but I feel like all it's going to do is just pull water from my fish tank and constantly run.
Well, look at what your humidity is. If your humidity is above 65%, then you have the potential for mold to start growing.
But that's exactly what happened with me. That's exactly what happened with me. I started noticing that I had to top off more.
Yeah. Well, we ended up with a black mold issue, and
right, you got to avoid that. But
yeah, it was an expensive thing to fix.
I think I would rather top off more than to have mold.
Oh, most definitely.
That's dangerous.
Absolutely.
That was my next question, was how do you control mold when your humidity level is that high inside of a building?
Well, with the dehumidifier, I keep it in check. But before I had the dehumidifier, we would wipe things down with bleach and stuff. But you can't keep up with it. And I ended up resorting to having to go to the dehumidifier.
Now, are you using like a commercial grade dehumidifier for that
No,
much water
I'm currently running a 70 pint a day dehumidifier that runs nonstop. And the AC unit during the summertime will pull out, the mini split will pull out over 90 pints a day. And during the summertime, I would say that the dehumidifier probably runs about 75% of the time.
Wow. I just wanted to.
But, you also got to realize I have almost 3,000 gallons of water in there, too.
Right. That's what I noticed.
I noticed.
I'm sorry, Salty, but I noticed in my situation when I just had like a tank in every room, it was doable. But we can't. When I set up my breeding situation that literally took up the back room of my house, I came home one day and the freaking floors were wet. They were wet. It was ridiculous. I don't have really the answers, but it's ridiculous. And I wanted to say too, also, Lisa's Fishbowl Life. Sorry. I do see the comments, and you're starting your first saltwater tank soon. You're excited. I would love to hear more about it. Feel free to come on in and tell us about it or ask any questions. This is open chat, so do as you like, but I'm excited too. Please let us know when you start up. Chimp, Model Citizen, I'm not going to answer that one. No, I'm just kidding. And Lisa, in the Hangout, Lisa Lou, my question for you is, do you keep, I have noticed something, there's some correlation between the temperatures of the tank and the humidity. So I'm just, and I'm also just curious. What did you keep your reef tank temperature, and what did you keep your seahorse tank temperatures?
My reef tank was kept at about 78 degrees.
Okay.
And my seahorse tank is run on a chiller. In the winter, I'm keeping it at 70. In the summer, it's a bit more of a struggle to keep it that low, even with the chiller. I live in New Orleans, and it's very humid here and hot. I run it at about 72 in the summer.
Nice. I mean, that's great. And did you notice any difference in any humidity issues when you switched to the lower temperature tank?
No, I haven't. You mean within my home?
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes.
Well, I have less evaporation.
Okay.
I'm noticing, which I'm not really sure if there's any correlation there, but there's an ongoing issue within my home with that's outside of the fish tank that's bringing humidity into my house. That's a whole nother topic for.
Well, I understand it's getting late. We've been talking forever. We'll cut it short soon. But where without giving out your exact location, what area are you from?
I live in New Orleans. In New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha. Then you go ahead.
And how often are you topping off?
Well, that's a great question because this brings up another issue that I've recently run into. I discussed this with Dan. I have a 5-gallon auto top-off container that I use. And what I had been doing was when it got to be around 2 gallons of water, I would just top it back off. Well, trying to figure out what's going on with my tank the other day during maintenance, I decided to clean out the container, the little 5-gallon tank, and found about a 1/4 inch of biofilm in the bottom of that. So I really can't say how much I'm topping off or how much consumption there is because I always just kept it filled. So now I'm in a position where I'm monitoring it. So I had 4 gallons in there when I did the maintenance on the tank and cleaned it all out. And that was last weekend. And right now, currently, I have 2 gallons left. So I'm going to guess that I'm evaporating about 2 gallons roughly a week. It's going to take a couple more weeks for that figure to balance out for me to know exactly.
And I have a question with that one. And I know Dan's in here, so either one of you can answer. But why was there a biofilm in your top off?
I have no idea. There's a lid on it. It was clear. It was just like a sludgy gelatin. And the only thing I can figure is just I hadn't cleaned it out frequently enough. There's no circulation pump in there. That could be contributing to it as well. I do use RODI water, so I'm thinking it's a circulation issue. I need to drop a little power head in there to keep that water moving.
If not a power head, even just an air stone, just to keep it aerated.
Okay, I could definitely do that. And I think now that you mention it, someone else had suggested that same thing to me when I was discussing it on one of the posts on Facebook.
Yeah, I think I saw that post.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I would think with RODI that you wouldn't have that sort of film, but with your tank maintenance and that, do you like wash it out every month or so to make sure?
I had not been cleaning it out that frequently, and that was my mistake. I was probably cleaning it out quarterly, and now I very clearly realize that I need to do it more frequently because I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it had occurred.
Right.
Can I jump in here for a second?
Yeah.
Hey, I was just referring back to the algae and the bacteria. I feel like they both have a symbolic relationship in the hobby. I think the algae does a very good portion of exporting nutrients, and it's good for the system. It's all around ecosystem. You can feed your fish some of the stuff. Bacteria, on the other hand, there's so many strains out there that are beneficial for the overall ecosystem of your reef tank or seahorse tank. I dose Microbac 7 and I dose Dr. Tim's periodically at all times, like just to keep stuff seated in the tank. And when I do that, I notice that my system is more clear, more if there is any bad bacteria, it's almost like you're dosing antibiotics to your system. So it basically helps with all of the things that you might not be able to clean so good in the back of the tank, or whatever, if you ain't got enough flow. So if you dose bacteria on that hand, I think it helps with trying to keep your system more, what's the word I'm trying to use?
Balanced.
Stable?
Balanced.
Yeah, that helps. So like mine, I have 3 tanks that are filled with Chaeto and macroalgae. They actually just kind of grew together, and I dose bacteria. I also have biopellets on my system. It's a 340-gallon system, but I have no algae in my main system. Like, I clean my glass very, very minimally, like even when I had metal halides on. And I think that's due to the algae, and it's due to the fact that I have very good population of bacteria.
No, I actually agree with you, but please don't compare it to antibiotics. Oh my God! And the only reason I say that is there's so much
I was just using
trouble with
like an
antibiotics
analogy.
and fish in certain areas. But no, the analogy was good. I got it. I just wanted to be clear that that's not what you meant. And
I don't want people to think that it doesn't treat anything, or it's just basically puts cultures in your water to help stabilize it, make it balanced, as I think the salty tank said.
The salty
so
reef.
Maybe you meant antibodies.
Yeah, it's really good, and I don't think a lot of people give it credit for both.
No.
So I mean, I do my thing. Everybody does their own thing, and
Right.
I've been dosing Microbac 7 and Dr. Tim's. I'm not saying dump. I don't go by the regimen. I just every 2 days I'll do a cap full of this, or every week if I think of it. But I'm always replenishing that bacteria into my system, even though I know it's very well seeded. It's just I think it's beneficial.
I swear, I tell you, I think that is the cause of many times we see old tank syndrome set in and such. I think bacteria dosing could possibly,
very much so, 'cause
alleviate that
I mean,
problem.
they say after I don't know what it is. I'm throwing a number, 8, 9, 10 years, that your rock really, you have to get rid of your rock and put new rock, or take half out, almost
Right.
like Miracle Mud. But I feel like if you're
Dosing.
got the bacteria and you're dosing all of that, and it's gonna be beneficial. I don't think you have to do that. I mean, there's enough different cultures in Microbac 7. There's a YouTube video out where they did an actual slides and showed the actual bacteria, how effective it really is, and how it grows.
If you
So, I
happen
mean-
to remember, would you because I'm terrible about remembering to find the links when the stream's over. Could you post it in the comments if you have time later? And I'm curious too. Have you ever used Fritz?
No, Fritz is. I mean, that's a newer product. I mean, Fritz, even though they've been around for, I'm old school.
Yeah.
I mean, Dr. Tim's has been around forever. Brightwell's been around for a little bit. So I mean, those are the products that I use.
Mm-hmm.
But even when Rico just redid his system, I mean, all these different strains. I'm sure Microbac 7 has different strains than Dr. Tim's. They might even have a couple of the same. Fritz might have a total. So I mean, I think diversity is key to, it's not going to hurt the system by putting other strains in there, because it's only going to be beneficial to you.
Well, I do want to make I'm not sure who just talked. I'm sorry, but I do want to make a quick comment that just I've been asked by some UK folks a lot. They're worried because there's so many videos out there. Cycle a tank in 1 day. Look, you can literally recycle your rock in 2 days, and blah 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 blah. And I've been guilty of doing those types of videos showing how using pre-cycled media or whatnot, or using bacteria can speed the process. And so for anybody who happens to watch this later, I just want to be clear. What we're talking about is reseeding a tank that's already established. There are methods to start a tank with bacteria, but I'm going to go on the record right now saying that you're going to always be better off doing a cycle the right way, and seeing it through versus just dumping some bacteria in. Now, as to what DM Zarif said, I agree too. There are many bacterias and many bacteria strains that can be positive and help the system. The good guy, the basic way of saying it is the good guys out competing the bad guys, but in the tank. But some of those strains do different things. So some of them might be nitrifiers, some of them might be denitrifiers, some of them might be sludge eaters. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but there's different strains. So know your strains, do your research, know bacteria. The chances of a bottled bacteria actually hurting your tank are slim unless it's expired. Then it will hurt your tank. But what we're saying is true. I agree with DM Zarif, but I just wanted to put that little shout out. Beware of depending on bacteria to do anything. Using it as a enhancer is good, but whoever's trying to talk,
Kelly,
go ahead.
Also, these people out there that want to cycle their tank in 2 weeks and they say that it's cycled. Yeah, it might be cycled. The nitrogen cycle might be over with, but your system takes at least 6 months to a year to be fully matured. I mean, it's time is everything. Patience in this hobby, whether it's seahorses. I mean, I understand seahorses love cleanliness, so you could do more water changes, more this, that. But a reef tank, it takes 6 months to a year. I would say better off a year for your system to be ready to rock and roll, and it should be, it should be ready for anything you put in it.
I agree. And hey, DM Zarif, while you're here, I was curious. Lisa, who is in here tonight, actually put sand into her tank and now is dealing with diatoms.
Right.
What would you suggest to her?
Diatoms are going to be part of the that's just part of the cycle.
Let it ride.
Just let it ride. And then, if you start getting slime or like stuff like that, which, I mean, just keep your flow going. Keep your lights off. You don't need your lights if you're cycling. There's no point.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I didn't tell you the whole story. This was an established tank with seahorses in it. And about 10 months in, she decided to add sand. She removed the seahorses.
Well, yeah.
Did it right?
She's going through a mini cycle because it's live sand is not live. I work for a fish store. I work for an all reef aquarium store, high end everything, and that stuff comes in frozen.
Well, no, hey, I don't mean to interrupt you, but and I know you weren't here, and so, no problem, but she knew that, and she used dry sand, rinsed the hell out of it. She did the sand transfer correctly. She did not have a mini cycle. Everything was perfect. She tests her tanks. The seahorses are fine. I was just asking if you had any suggestions for dealing with diatoms.
Right. The diatoms is because there's no bacteria on that. So it's like a mini cycle. That's what we call it. So basically all that sand that she just put in, bacteria is starting to coat over it. So diatoms is bacteria. So it's becoming alive. It's starting to get surface bacterial erosion all over them pieces of sand or particles in that water. So that sand has to mature now. So what's happening is the algae seeing a new surface. The algae that's all over her rocks and plants and walls and glass. There's algae. There's bacteria everywhere. Well, that bacteria seen all that new sand and was like, let's go. So they swarmed it. And the first ones to do it are diatoms. And then they'll go away. And then the next would be maybe you'll get some like little slightly green or it depends on what colors. It might go brown. Well, diatoms are brown.
It's
and then it'll go away.
Cycling and not 3.
Pardon?
this I've read articles. There aren't 3 stages of cycling a tank. There are 6.
Right, the algae cycles and the
Exactly.
nitrogen. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And Dave is in the comments. You left too soon. I know you had a phone call, Dave, but everything needs to establish a biocoat before you light your tank. Correct, but as I just
Exactly.
said and caught you guys up to date, is that this tank was established. It had been going for 10 months, and Lisa did
Right.
everything correctly. I wasn't trying to call you out. Sorry, I was just trying to ask if anybody disagreed with the thought that she should just wait it out. That was my question.
Yeah, just it'll go away.
And now I want to know a little bit more. Dan, are you trying to say something?
No, I did.
Okay, go.
And that's what I was talking about earlier with the mini cycle was the diatoms are part of a cycle. So if she's getting diatoms, that's part of a mini cycle.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it's not necessarily an ammonia nitrite thing. I mean, is the thing.
No,
I
no.
know what you're saying, and this is going to be it's so complicated. I agree, but yeah, just write it out is the answer. That's
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I've been left to do. Very familiar with the algae portion of a tank cycling. So when you asked me if I had a mini cycle,
you knew what I meant, right?
No, in terms of the 3 first stages of the cycle with converting to nitrate, that did not happen.
Right.
You're right. That's not going to happen. So if you were to buy a brand new piece of Pecani rock, because it's white, and you rinsed it all off and soaked it and got everything, and you put that in your system, it'll turn brown just because of whatever. You know, I buy magnet rocks for my system, and they turn brown before they start getting coralline algae or anything. So it's just that particular diatom algae or bacteria it's the first stage of life.
Actually,
rocks.
Dave just pointed out in the comments that it's the silicates too. I did forget about that part. Yeah, it's definitely the silicates that feed the diatoms, blah, blah, blah. But, and Lisa, just for the record, I know that you knew that. Sorry, I didn't mean to make an issue of it. I was just hoping for a suggestion. I thought maybe, somebody would know some sort of bacteria dosing that could help speed the process. But we all know that patience is virtue. And yeah.
I didn't take it that way, Kelly. Not at all.
Okay.
I know where you were going with it.
Right.
But like I said, that sand that I used was the Meridian. I want to say it's not supposed to have the silicates in it.
Really?
But yeah, I'm reading. I could have swore I read that somewhere.
You could be right.
I could be wrong though.
It happens. I'm curious now. Anybody else know anything about the Seachem sand? Dave, I hope your phone call was okay. I hope everything's all right. Thanks for coming back and saying hey. And DM's Reef, I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you still trying to let us know? Are you going to show us your pipefish? Go ahead.
I can see if I can find him. Hold on. He's usually out, but he's in the big system now, so.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this guy before. He's cutie.
I'll be completely honest. I am shocked that this system has supported the pipefish for an entire year. I shouldn't have doubted you, DM's Reef.
Oh, there he is.
Nor should I have doubted Miracle Mud, but I'm shocked. That's amazing.
See him all the way in the back?
Well, if I'd shut up.
You may have to put him on present.
Yeah, I was going to say, I couldn't shut up long enough. Hang on. Here you go.
Yeah,
Here we go.
Out. Look,
present.
All the way in the
there we
back.
go. Is it presenting now?
Oh.
Now it is. I don't see him, though.
All the way in the back, on the back glass.
There we go.
Top, bottom, where are we looking?
He's going to be right. Hold on.
Point or
Let
something.
me zoom in here. Oh, I can't zoom in.
That's all right. Just like tell me by
He's right
which
there,
coral.
straight by. He's
Oh, I see him.
He's right by. He's right by the Bam Bam, the Zoas.
Gotcha. I
He's
see
like
him.
blends in. He's a he's still he's good though. I mean, you can't. He's there though. There you go. He's starting to move now. He's just like a pencil. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he feeds himself.
Yeah, no, I'm very impressed, and I was hoping he would come out so that I could see how fat he was.
Yeah.
That's wow.
Yeah, there you go. He's starting to move. He eats good.
Yeah, he's a good size.
There he goes. See him? He's starting to. If I get all these fish out of the way, he's all the way in the back on that rock. You stay up. There he goes.
Now I'm curious. Does he hide because of the fish? You think, or
No, he's out right now. No, he likes to. He does his thing. Let me see if I do it this way.
Hey, Dave, we have a meow. Did you hear the meow? Okay. Anyways,
He's
go on.
right there.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it was great. It was perfect. It was meow. Okay.
But actually, Dave brought up a good point about the Nasaria snails are great for diatoms in the sand because they sift the sand.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bunch of those, as well as a conch and 2 olive snails and some various others. I've got some, cleanup crew in there trying to sift it around. It's like you guys said, I think it's just going to have to run its course. And, just the ugly phase.
Is it safe to stick a sand sifting goby in there?
It's a 60-gallon cube. I've thought of that. I'm hesitant to put any fish in there other than what I have. I have the 3 seahorses, and the only other fish that I have is, and don't blast me all, I have a clownfish in there, Ocellaris.
Mm-hmm.
I had those in with mine too. They were fine.
I think instead of adding to the bioload, just kind of let it ride out.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking too. And it brings me to a question when we were talking about bacteria and adding bacteria to the tank. I think it was Dan was saying you add the Mactro. What is it? The
Max Spec 7. That was DM.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do any of you use probiotic?
Yes, I do.
I do too. You're using the McF?
Yes, and honestly, to be completely honest, and Dan, I'm going to just ask. I'm wondering if that biofilm you found in the top off isn't due to that, because I had an issue with a biofilm due to that because I was using too much. It was my own fault. And yours might not be a fault thing. As you said, it might be lack of oxygen in the area. But Dan, I know she's talked to you about it on the side. Do you think that the Mike F contributed to her top off dilemma?
Well, I don't think that's possible, Kelly, because I'm not adding the McF to the top off water in that container. I'm
that's right.
Directly into my display tank. So
that's right. I'm a dummy. You're right. I'm an idiot. I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking, but that makes sense. Sorry. But yes, I do use the probiotics. What has your experience been with the probiotics so far, Lisa?
I started them when the tank was bare bottom, and definitely noticed a huge reduction in the particles that I was previously finding that collecting on the bottom of the glass. There was a lot less waste at the bottom of the tank, which is why, ironically, I felt really comfortable about adding sand to my tank, because it's always in the past been a chore to keep that sand clean and to keep the detritus from building up within it. And of course, under rock is always difficult. My rocks are all lifted off the glass. They're pegged. my whole aquascape is drilled and pegged, so they don't sit directly down on the bottom. They sit about an inch up. So I have the sand under it, but the McF is what made me think that I could add the sand and not have as many issues keeping sand in the tank and it becoming more of a nuisance or a nitrate sink than being a bare bottom tank.
That makes perfect sense. So let me change my question now that I have rethought it, because you're absolutely right. It couldn't affect top off. That was really, I don't know what I was thinking. But Dan, would adjusting the dose of McF, however you say it, would that help her situation? Obviously, we've all decided just leave it alone. But I'm just asking, just out of curiosity, the probiotics, they don't affect that kind of stuff, right? They don't affect.
I wouldn't expect it to, no.
They are more good bacteria as far as beating out the Vibrios and the bad. Right.
Yeah, well, basically, they're competing against organic matter against bad bacteria.
Okay. So they're, I mean, like, for the common person, me, there's so many bacteria strains beating out different things, but when you're talking about the probiotics, you're talking about they're beating them out. Beating what out? What are they beating out?
Well, they're competing against the bad bacteria for the same food source.
Right, but every bacteria does that. I'm saying, well, but you can't add probiotics to get through a cycle.
Some bacteria have different preferences of what they feed on. Yeah, okay. Some bacteria have different preferences of what they feed on, and these are designed specifically to feed on the organic matter, the waste matter, if you will, or it could be food even, and the other thing is some bacteria will emit, oh shoot, I get all my words all mixed up here, but basically they can emit, give off proteins and different substances that irritate the opposing bacteria, if you will. When you have good and bad bacteria, they're basically competing for the same space. And the idea of the probiotics is to put enough of the good bacteria in to outcompete the bad bacteria.
Right. I get.
The McF is 3 strains of Bacillus species, and it's a whole lot different than the other stuff that DM was talking about. This is designed specifically for organics. These aren't sludge busters, or they're designed for production systems, and they just happen to work well in a seahorse tank. And in fact, some of the reefers like it as well, but it's not a multi-species type thing. It's only 3 species of bacteria.
Okay, okay. I was trying to fix that. Yes, and I guess that's what I was trying to get at, is that the Bacillus, however you say it, species is eating the things that will feed the bacteria that will attack, like Vibrio and stuff. So I guess that was it. It's just the strains confuse me and other people because, there's so many different things that bacteria do. And while putting them in can't hurt, the point is kind of lost when you don't understand what they're doing, if that makes sense. But anyways, you explained it. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, but the problem with probiotics, and not just probiotics by itself, but even stuff that's designed to help with buildup of sludge and things like that, is that most of these things are a preventative type thing, so they're difficult to measure by eye. If they're doing their job, you're not having a problem, and if you wait till you have a problem, then most of these aren't designed to fix the problem; they're designed to prevent the problem.
Right. Well, I definitely agree with probiotics, and as Lisa was saying, it did help my tanks. So good. I agree. It's preventative. I wish there were better ways to measure that. And I did want to ask. Go ahead, Dan.
The word I was looking for was enzymes. The bacteria give off enzymes.
Gotcha. And I did want to. Go ahead.
Isn't that why biodiversity is key?
Well, biodiversity is always key. You know, in the case of this particular probiotic, you know, it was a highly researched thing that they used trying to keep specific species of bacteria from populating in production systems.
Got it.
I'm trying to read the comments too. Sorry. Some nice yellow what? But anyways,
Dwarfs.
Oh. And DM's Reef, I did not mean to cut you off and start talking probiotics. I'm sorry. You literally walked us through your entire system and tank. And I was curious, I had one question for you. How long has Miracle Mud and your refugium setting types of, combination tank thing, how long has that been running and how long has it worked for you?
My refugium on the outside of the system's been up, I want to say 7 months, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
Because in February, so since February, so February, March, April, May, so almost a year. Actually, I'm lying to you. The outside one, the ones underneath have been there from the start. This tank is coming up on a year and a half. I did have a 120 that I completely took apart and used that rock, and then I obviously bought more rock. And then the algae and stuff, they just kicked off. They just started growing. I did try to make my one a display, but the Chaeto just grows so fast. The macroalgae was growing fast, but it was getting out-competed from the Chaeto underneath, so I just said the heck with it and threw a bunch of Chaeto in the other one, and long story short, it's still surviving. I think that's why my phosphates aren't where I need them to be, because I can't get all of it out of the macroalgae, what is that, Caulerpa? I can't get it all out. It's just, it'll grow, but then I think it dies off. So my phosphates right now are like 0.01, I think it's like 35 parts per billion. I tested this today. So if you did that, times it by 3, or divide it by whatever the combination is, I forget it. So, it's low, but it ain't as low as I want it to be. But my corals seem to be fine. So, they're consuming most of it.
Sure.
So, yeah, everything is about a year, I would say, that I had really good success. So, the last, 4 months is when everything started really growing real nice in the Chaeto. I do have some mangrove trees that are doing really nice. I grew them since they were really about a foot. They're about 1.5 feet, 2 feet now.
Yeah, nice.
So, yeah, so just everything is really established. So, like I said before, it takes a good 6 months to a year for everything to, really kick off. And I never put any pods or anything in the system. So, whatever was in the rocks or whatever, it just grew. When I did put Miracle Mud in, it did kick off, the amphipods and the worms and all that kind of stuff seemed to explode.
Yeah.
I do have my own supply of Myisis shrimp down in my other refugium. They are breeding like heaven. So at nighttime in the main display and in my overflows, you can see billions of actual Myisis shrimp that have bred. So they're self-sustaining themselves.
You need to start selling them suckers, because I'd buy them. And
they're tiny, but they're not huge, but they're live, and it gives the fish and stuff to things to chase and eat, and so.
and you would credit that to the Miracle Mud,
it has. I think Miracle Mud has a lot to do with it, because whatever's in that, I don't know if it's stuff that they like to eat, if it's stuff they like to
or their eggs or something.
Or eggs or something, because when I didn't have this, literally, I think Dave Nanotanks can say, at first, like, you didn't really see anything, and then all of a sudden, I would say, give it like 4 weeks, 3 weeks, it was like everything exploded as far as like the microfauna just like took off.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can't say that it won't do that without it, but I think something that's in that powder, the dirt, they like it.
Yeah.
So I think whatever it is, it's because I do have it in my other sumps in trays. So whatever that is, it's something that causes them to like want to lay eggs.
Well,
constantly.
right, and most of the big time reefers do use it. You know, I mean, they do in some way, shape, or form. I did want to say really quickly, good night, Tina. Thank you for coming. Sorry, I know I let this stream go on way too long. We're gonna cut it short in a minute, but I did have one other thought, and I don't mean to put everybody back on Lisa, but I was going to say that's a thought based on what he was just talking about, is with your scrubber. If you happened to, obviously we've agreed, just write it out. But if you, I understand not wanting to sit there and let it look like shit. I get it. So I'm just thinking maybe if you, I know you had some steps you were going to take. Maybe if you switch those steps around and did the light on the scrubber first, if you get that scrubber growing faster, it would outcompete the stuff in the display. So just a thought. And go ahead.
It's definitely a good one. It's where I'm trying to head towards.
And maybe even, I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, and we'll talk on the side because I don't want to keep putting the attention on you, because everyone here is trying to help and has good comments, but sometimes they don't know the whole story. And bottom line is, I'm just thinking of all these things like iron that you could put on in the area that the scrubber is, but we'll talk on the side. Anyhow.
Okay.
I have a question for
yes,
Lisa.
Please, go ahead.
Yes.
Please.
Have you ever had a problem with the chlorpra going sexual?
I had that in my 90 reef tank, and no, I did not. It was my understanding from some of the research I did, and this was a couple years ago when I put it in, that if it stayed under light 24/7 and there weren't those slack periods, that I had less of a chance of it doing that. So my lighting was on 24/7.
My light stays on 24/7.
Okay. And Lucy had a question. Can a system with Miracle Mud topless sand effectively work for seagrass?
Yes, I can answer that. Yes. I can't tell you why, but yes, I've seen them. Lucy, we're going to have crews in here in a couple weeks, and maybe sooner than a couple weeks. And he is the Miracle Mud Man. I did get to meet Langsai on multiple occasions, and he's amazing. And you guys should watch. I'm going to post that 2014 MACNA video in the comments. You guys should watch it just because it's so cool to see how things have changed.
I had breakfast with him.
Yeah, right. I know you got to sit next to me and eat dinner. But anyways, he stood up at this debate between Julian Sprung and Jake Adams and said, "You guys are both right, but you're both wrong, because here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create this system that blah, 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 blah." And it was really cool. So I'll post the link to that, but we'll get some experts in here to say exactly how. But yes, you can absolutely do seagrass with Miracle Mud and sand capped. Absolutely. It would eat it up. Okay, we've been going way too long, guys. I love you all for coming and talking with me for so long. But did anybody else have anything they wanted to get out, or questions? Or Dan, and you've already said there's no sales or anything. Lisa, is there anything else you wanted to share? Or DM Sharif, anybody?
No, thank you for having me.
Go ahead.
I wanted to say to the people in the stream, don't forget that Super Chat's now available. Support the channel.
Thank you, DM Sharif. I actually got ridiculous super chats tonight, which was so cool and made me feel so good. That was so amazing. I'm still trying to get those masks to work, but thank you for mentioning it. And we'll definitely keep working on that. Thank you to those who did support the stream tonight. Thank you. And thank you, Dan, Lisa, DM's Reef, Salty, Dave, everybody who came, and Tina, everybody who came and contributed. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You. I just want to add, I don't know if we're going to be here next Wednesday with the holiday, but Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. And I probably honestly will be here, but if you guys aren't, I understand. Go ahead. Everybody want to say Merry Christmas? Go ahead.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you too.
Thanks. Nice talking with y'all.
And Dan said, bah humbug. I heard him. All right. Hey, Lisa, hang on 1 second, all right? Because I'm going to show you something real quick. Bye, Davis. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Happy Wine Wednesday. I'm going to, if we're not going to be here next week, I will let you know in advance. But we will have all of these interesting topics covered again very soon. So happy Wine Wednesday. See you again very soon on a Wednesday. And have wine. Bye. All right.